Yes! Guys, I apologize. I am a little late today. So I apologize for that. Man, feeling good. All right, so listen. This is my NFL Draft Grades show. What I've done over the last several days is I've gone out of my way not to listen to anybody talk about the NFL draft. So I literally just finished up doing a little presentation. I'm going to show you some screens, give you an idea of what I'm doing. I went ahead and I didn't watch anything from grade shows from ESPN, the NFL Network. Keaton Talk Sports did a draft grades video. I didn't watch that. Key sent me something. He tried to ignore that. I saw a little bit of it. I don't want to regurgitate what I've heard on the NFL Network, ESPN, any of that stuff. All I'm giving you today is my opinion on the NFL draft. And I want to be very clear. I'm an NFL history expert. Okay. I am an NFL history expert. There's not very many people on the planet that know more about NFL history than I do. I'm an NFL expert. I can talk any team for hours on end, all 32 teams. I'm an NFL betting expert. I am not a draft expert. I'm going to say that very clearly. I am not a draft expert. This is just my opinion. Friday, I'm going to come on and I'm going to kind of give you some tweaks after I get ahead and listen to some other people talk about the draft, do a little more research. All I've done over the last several days is pour over the draft. I have 2 yellow legal pads, and one is just notes from trades. One is the first 3 rounds. First thing off the top of my head, I just write a letter grade down. And I've been doing that for the last several years. I will say this though, my draft grades are really, really accurate. I think they're really spot on. I stand by them, but again, I am not a draft expert. It's just something I like to do for fun. But my draft grades have been really good, even though a lot of people will say I thought this was bad, and I expect you guys to argue. And that's the whole point of this channel is I want some feedback from you guys, because the draft grades that I have, I might have missed something that somebody else said. So I was late actually preparing this video. I meant to advertise it a little more and a little better. But I just wasn't able to. I'm going to, before I get going, I'll pop an energy drink. I really don't know why. I really don't need it. I'm pretty jacked up today. Well, here, let me just share this with you real fast here. Before I get going, I just want to explain a few things. Normally when I do my NFL draft grades, I have a winner and a loser. I didn't see a clear-cut winner, and I didn't see a clear-cut loser. For the very first time ever, I did not give an A+, and I did not give an A. I gave 6 A-, and there's different variations. An A- is 92 to 90, and I could actually give a percentage, because some of the teams that got an A- I liked a little more than others, but I think that all 6 of the teams deserved an A-. The C-, there was 5 of them. There are 5 earned, but none I really hated. If I really wanted to, I could give some of those. I could make D+. And by the way, yes, about half the teams got a B or a B-. As you see, I gave 7 for each, and I really struggled with the B's. Denver Gator, listen, that's probably on me. Normally, there's a lot of things I do before I put on the show. There's some like keywords. I meant to send out the links to a lot of people. I didn't do it. I spent the times I did making all these slides here. which I don't know. Actually, to tell you the truth, I really wish I could put all these off to the side. I don't know how to do that. Yeah, so Keaton Talk Sports, listen, man, after I finish tonight's show, I'm going to go back. I'm going to watch your video, try to get some ideas of what you have for the draft grade. I didn't watch your draft grades because I really try hard to just not listen to anybody before I do my draft grades. But as you see here, I gave 6 A minuses, 3 B pluses, 7 Bs, 7 B minuses, 2 C pluses, 2 Cs, and 5 C minuses. For the first time ever, I did not give an A plus. I did not give an A. I did not give any Ds or D pluses. This is the first time I've ever done this. Funk, I'll listen back tomorrow, but I saw an article out of Seattle that the Lions wanted to trade up to 16, backed out when 16 hit the clock, and the Lions wanted Latu. Arnold would be fine, I guess. I really believe that, too, because I think Seattle was looking to move out of round one. I like Byron Murphy and everything, but I really think that, especially with Newton going early round two, I'm going to talk about that. Man. Funk, thanks for chiming in today. I make some comments on my draft grades because I think you're going to have some disagreements. But I'm going to go worst to first, so I'll start off with the 5 C minuses here. But yeah, let me know what you think. I expect you to have some disagreements. So, and by the way, I encourage you to disagree with me. This is never going to be a channel that everybody has to agree with me. I'm always right. I mean, it's just not the case. It's really not the case. So put your comments in. I encourage you to let me know because I might have missed something here. I'm not a draft expert. Have a good show. Yeah, man. Yeah, I expect you to have some disagreements. All right. 5 C minuses. Let's go. I have Atlanta, Carolina, Miami, Minnesota, and Tennessee. All right. So bottom line, here's the drill here with these picks. Okay. And bear with me here. I had some problems here before the show started trying to get set up and everything. I'm going to give you the pluses here. Hopefully you can read this. I wish I could move this out of the way. There is a way to do that. I just don't know how to do it. So, so bear with me here. The pros. I wonder. Now you got me wondering if I can do this. There it is. Okay, that looks a little better. All right. I'll just do this for now. All right. Okay. So pros, Penix over McCarthy, Braylon Trice. For those of you who are not familiar with him, he lost 20 pounds before he went to the combine because he knew he wasn't going to run a great 40 time. Dropped 20 pounds, ran a 4.72 at like 247. Bottom line, he put the weight back on. He's probably naturally going to play at like 260, 265. I think I heard a report at his pro day he ran in 4.6s at 260. He'll be the best player out of this rookie draft, for the Falcons this year. This is a really good edge rusher. Ignore the 40 time. This is a really good player. This was a great third-round pick. And I also really like the fact that your biggest weakness is the Atlanta Falcons were your defensive line. You drafted Rook. I'm going to butcher the name. Aurora Rohrer out of Clemson, Braylon Trice, and Brandon Doris. Brandon Doris I really liked a lot. Not for every team. Thought this was a great fit for the Atlanta Falcons. So you got some really good front seven help. And I really, really like what they did. But bottom line, here's the cons. The Penix trade, when you signed Cousins, all that money makes no sense to me. I like Penix more than I like McCarthy, okay? But McCarthy and Cousins have similar skill sets, where the offense that you want to run with Penix is probably a lot different than the offense you want to run with Cousins, and you have a new offensive coordinator. So you got to spend all your time kind of getting Cousins ready to play. Why draft a quarterback at 8 when you really can't groom him the way? It didn't make any sense to me. Just call Aurora Scooby-Doo. That's all I can. Yeah, I could not do his name. I cannot do his name. I like the player. But bottom line, Max Melton, who Arizona ended up trading for, what happened is Atlanta traded up for this guy, and Arizona used that pick on Max Melton. Max Melton, I thought, was easily a higher rated player. By the way, the Arizona trade ended up getting Tip Raymond, Max Melton, and Trey Benson in the third. And I had, Tip Raymond, I didn't really have on my radar that much. I don't know too much about him. He's more of a blocker than a receiver, but he's going to help in that running game. And then you get a big running back like Trey Benson, which I really like for Arizona. I'll talk about that later. But the trade up for Aurora Scooby-Doo, that made no sense, because here's a guy who would have been available later in the draft. This is another developmental guy. Here's a drill. 5 years from now, Penix and Aurora Scooby-Doo, thanks Denver Gator, may be Pro Bowl players. Neither one of them are really going to contribute this year. So the Atlanta Falcons went from being, I thought, the favorite to win the NFC South to, well, they're building for the future. But they signed Cousins $180 million. It just didn't make any sense, man. Perry, what's up, brother, man? I'm going over my draft grades here, man. Hopefully you listened to the preamble where I'm not a draft expert. And this is the first time I've ever done a draft grade show where I didn't give out an A plus, D plus, or D. I gave a lot of A. I went from A minus to C minus, and that was it. 5 years from now, and I can't emphasize this enough, Penix and Aurora Scooby-Doo may be Pro Bowlers. They're not going to contribute in 2024. And before the draft, I really thought if you got Dallas Turner at 8, this is a team that could be winning games in the playoffs, maybe challenging for the NFC Conference title, maybe going to a Super Bowl. Not now. And Super Bowl windows are small. So I really, it's hard for me to get on board with this. But again, 5 years from now, Penix and Aurora Scooby-Doo, thanks Denver Gator, by the way. These may be really, really, really good players. Reports are the Falcons GM went rogue. The trade up for Aurora, by the way, I absolutely really like this guy. I had a 3rd round grade. I did a mock draft for the Chiefs, drafted him at the bottom of the 2nd. He's from Nigeria. At 294, he ran like a 4.85. Raw. Athletic upside. But, God, to get him in the top of the 2nd, there was no need to trade up. And Arizona parlayed that into some players I had a higher grade on. So it's hard for me to really be on board with the Atlanta Falcons. Next team that got a C minus are the Carolina Panthers. The pros are, you get Bryce Young some help. You got Xavier Legette, you got Jonathan Brooks, you got Jatavian Sanders. Sanders is an absolute steal. You get him in the 4th round. He ran a 4.69 at the combine, and that cost him some money. But ignore the 4.69. Just watch him play. He plays much faster. I thought this was easily the 2nd best tight end in the draft. He wasn't. And they also got a guy, Trayvon Wallace, in the 3rd round. This is a really sneaky good pick by the Panthers. This is a kid out of Kentucky. This is a guy that may surprise people and start. Keaton Talk Sports says, "What's up, Harry? Dan, I don't understand from move to Penix 8. I don't get it either. I was stunned. 25-26 doesn't bother me at all because, I mean, Brady played till he was 65 years old. So, and then, oh God, I'm drawing a blank on his name. The Oakland Raiders had a quarterback, ended up, he was also the kicker, but he played till he was like 48 years old. I don't care about 25-26 for quarterbacks, but, here's the problem I have is that Cousins and Penix you want to run different offenses. So like, here's the deal. In Kansas City, you had Alex Smith, you drafted Mahomes. Andy Reid's an offensive guy, and that makes sense because go watch the Chiefs under Alex Smith and then watch the Chiefs under Patrick Mahomes. They're two separate offenses, but you're Andy Reid. I don't know a defensive guy is going to really be that creative. I might have liked it better if you still had Arthur Smith as your head coach, but you don't. So I really didn't like that. The argument I have for Penix recovery time for Cousins in 1 year, you won't be available to October, and then getting into football condition. I get all that. And then, but here's the deal though. The offense you want to run for Penix should be completely different than the offense you want to run for Cousins. Yeah, Perry, I agree completely. I think Cousins is going to be gone in a year or two. What you'll probably do is you have to trade him. There could be a team that needs a quarterback desperately and might have to make a deal. Or you're Atlanta and you may say, look, I got Penix on a first year deal. You might have to make a move like Denver did, eat that contract and have him play for another team. Custer, yeah, that's why I don't get it. They went from being the NFC South favorite to like, I don't know now. That I really hate it. I really hated that, even though Penix, I even know Penix is better than McCarthy in my opinion. What I really hated about this draft is Leggett and Sanders are really raw players, and I'm not really sure they're ready to play now. And I say win now or what? Look at what the Carolina Panthers have done. This is the fourth coach in 3 years. I mean, they're just burning through head coaches left and right. And somebody pointed out, well, there's no possible way that they're going to fire Canales after 1 year. Why not? I watched Cleveland do it for like 6 straight years. And when you have head coaches being fired on a regular basis, whether they deserve to or not, yeah, I thought Mike, was it Mark Richt or whatever? He's now in Nebraska. I understand him getting fired. Frank Reich wasn't getting it done. I get that. But here's a guy that has no experience as a head coach. You're giving him, you got rid of about 5 defensive starters. You kept your defensive coordinator. Okay, great. You signed Derek Brown to a big deal. Smart move. If you win 4 wins again, look at who's available right now today. Ron Rivera, who took your team to a Super Bowl. Why not bring him back? Why not? And you're going to say, well, Dan, there's no way. Why wouldn't you? It happened with Joe Gibbs. It's a little slightly different situation. Ron Rivera, I'm sorry, I already said Ron Rivera. Mike Vrabel, I'm sorry, that's the name I was trying to think of. I thought Vrabel would have been a great fit for the Panthers. I really did, because defensively, you don't change too much. He's a guy players like to play for. It'd be a good fit. And then there's the guy who's won, 15 Super Bowls and Bill Belichick out there. So if you're the Carolina Panthers, I really feel like you kind of got to win more than like 4 or 5 games. So what do you do in the draft? You draft 2 guys that are very raw. And then Jonathan Brooks, by the way, a lot of people thought this would have been a first-round pick if he didn't tear his ACL late in the year. You already had Miles Sanders. You had Chuba Hubbard. You draft him in the middle of the second round, and you're not sure. You're just not sure. I really didn't get what the Panthers are doing. I really thought that they needed guys that were more ready to play immediately, and I was really surprised they didn't help their defense out at all. So you are lucky, Denver Gator. I'm going to start this here because I'm getting ready. Getting Leggett, Brooks, and Sanders to help Young is good. The Panthers are gambling on their talent. If it works out, great. If they don't, just waste the draft capital. Here's the deal. Not only is it wasted draft capital, you have a head coach you have a franchise that's just been burning through head coaches. You don't have a history of past success. It's your first head coaching job. So I really thought that you really needed guys that were really more day one ready. That's what I really didn't like. Keep in mind that Xavier Leggett and Brooks and Sanders, if all that pans out, you got a really great trio of possible starters, but you don't know. Yeah. Well, actually, they did. Leggett's a first round pick, so they traded up. So, but another thing is I think they really needed more defensive help. They traded back into the first round to get Leggett. I'll talk about that a little more when Buffalo comes up. Next up is the Miami Dolphins. What I liked about the Dolphins was Patrick Paul was a guy I've been mocking to Kansas City at pick number 32. You get him in round 2. There was talk about brain freeze at 22 and a half minutes. Terry and Armstead, I'm sorry, he was talking about retiring this offseason. He's coming back, but anytime you talk retirement, you're 32, you're coming off an injury. Smart move, Patrick Paul, because I think he's a guy who can come in a pass-heavy offense. Now, it's kind of funny because his run blocking was kind of a knock, and so you get a guy who's run blocking still. Man, they got some really good players late in the draft. If you're not aware, Muhammad Kamara was a late 5th round pick out of Colorado State. He was a Mountain West Player of the Year. If he played in the SEC, he's the 2nd round pick because he played in the Mountain West. You steal him in the 5th. Very, very good player. Malik Washington is kind of a fun story. Played 4 years at Northwestern, caught like 30 passes. Took the 5th year option to switch schools, set every sorts of every Virginia record. If you just watched how he played at Virginia last year, it's like, oh, this is a 2nd, 3rd round pick. You get him in the 6th round. He's not only going to make the team, he's really going to contribute. I'm not going to go too much into these 6th and 7th round picks of Washington's 6th round pick, but these last couple picks are really, really good. I actually really liked what Miami did in the later round since Super Bowl Carolina. Yeah, exactly. They just been burning through guys. So, but yeah, I also agree with this too, Perry. So here's what I didn't like about the Miami Dolphins draft. And there's so many things. No corners, no defensive tackles. That didn't make any sense. A Trek reviewer, what's up, brother? Man, glad to see you in the chat. Going over my NFL draft grades. I have not hit your bills yet. I've been going over the C minuses, which is the lowest grade I gave in this. Can I make a side note? Hey, man, that's awesome. Thanks, brother. That's why I was a little late. This took a little longer, and it should have been a little better. I literally finished it up 2 minutes before the show. I had to get an energy drink. I don't know why I need an energy drink, so I'm really jacked up. You traded a 2025 3rd for a running back. And by the way, I really like Jalen Wright. He's a guy that I thought really, really, really was a good player. But you drafted Devin Achane in the 3rd round last year. He was on the team with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. So you give up a 3rd round pick in 2025 for a 4th string running back. I didn't get it. Don't get me wrong. Maybe Mostert or Wilson's gonna be gone, but this to me made no sense because you had limited draft capital. You didn't use it for a corner, didn't use it for defensive tackle. By the way, I do think I'm sorry, Jalen Wright. It's a good pick, but man, God, I mean, you gave up a third for a position that you're already loaded in, and he doesn't do anything really different than these other guys. So it's just a weird decision, man. Keaton Talk Sports says they should got DeJean. I would have loved that too. By the way, your defensive coordinator is the Baltimore Ravens defensive line coach, so he's the defensive line coach. So I thought Newton made a lot of sense there. When you bring in a new defensive guy, you kind of want to bring in, guys that he can use. And that's kind of why you drafted Chop Robinson. But as I pointed out, here's the final thing. You already have Bradley Chubb, which you used the first-round pick on. You traded a first-round pick so you can get Bradley Chubb. 2021 first-round pick, Jalen Phillips. You already signed his fifth-year option. So you draft another guy in Chop Robinson, but he's raw, and he's going to take time to develop. And Kamara's another guy who I really, really like. But you already got your starters, but you needed one as a defensive tackle, and you needed one as a corner. Perry says the Bills are smart trading down. I think so. I think they made two really good draft trades with the Kansas City Chiefs and with the Carolina Panthers. I think they did a really good job. Spoiler alert. I think I like what the Bills did in the draft. Yeah, I really would have made this. I will be saying that later. Don't get me wrong. Chop Robinson develops into a stud. We're going to be looking at this draft grade and laughing, but man, yeah, there are so many question marks about this draft. All right, Denver Gator, the Minnesota Vikings. I was going to go ahead and give you a C- on. You had to know the Vikings were going to get a C-. Bottom line, as much as I like Dallas Turner, and by the way, you got your quarterback. Dallas Turner at 17 is an absolute steal. Absolute steal. I mean, this is just this is probably one of the best picks in the draft. Is you get a guy that I and a lot of other people thought was going top 10. You get him at 17. That's a great move. And what you do is you put him. Oh God, I have to look this up. I'm drawing a blank. Guy from Houston, Jonathan Greenyard. I'm sorry, I should have known that. But you get Jonathan Greenyard on one side. You get excuse me, Dallas Turner on the other. You got a chance for some really good players on defense. By the way, there's some really good late round picks. Kyrie Jackson, for those of you who don't know, he was an Alabama transfer. This is a guy that is a fourth round pick. They were talking about him in Alabama like this is the best defensive back we have. 6'6", it's like 6'3", 6'4", 200. He ran a 4.5 flat at the combine. I'm told that he can run in the 4.3 range. Massive upside. Goes to the right team, by the way. Walter Rouse was the left tackle at Oklahoma. And people are saying, well, you know what? The quarterback's a lefty, so he's not now. So you got a guy, by the way, Tyler Guyton is Oklahoma's right tackle. He's a first round pick. Rouse is on the left side. You get him into 6. That's a good pick. That's a really good pick. Do I think he's going to start? No, I don't. But I think this is a guy who's a swing tackle. This is a guy who's a swing tackle. And if I'm correct, the left tackle, oh God, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Loved him coming out of the draft. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Christian Darrisaw. Yeah, loved him coming out of Virginia Tech, by the way. This is a guy who has some injury issues. So you get a guy in the 6th round who could potentially play. That's a great move. And you also get a place kicker. Massive leg, and he played at Alabama, so he's used to the pressure. You get some really good players late in the draft. So I was so close to predicting the Vikings taking Penix at Atlanta at 11. Yeah, I know. I think me and you talked about that. Yeah. Maybe the Finns are hoping to find a nose tackle to plug the middle, Chubb and Chop to get to the quarterback. They actually did sign some defensive tackles, Perry. Miami did sign several defensive tackles, but they're all space eaters. Nobody who could play even close to Wilkins. I really thought that they could have got somebody to put some interior pressure, but basically they didn't get anybody who could really win a one-on-one battle, put pressure up the middle. So all your pressure has to come from the outside. It's not unheard of, but more and more teams are switching to putting an emphasis on interior pressure. That's why, look, your new defensive coordinator is a former defensive line coach, and I really thought that you would get somebody who would help more on the interior. But Chop Robinson, listen, not too many guys are born that are 250 run into 4.4 range, and Chop Robinson's one of them. So Vikings did get a steal, Dallas Turner. Absolutely. But they traded up. And by the way, they gave up a 2025 third and fourth just to move up those 6 spots. And I joke around here, Vikings hate draft picks, but they do. They really do hate draft picks because they gave up a bunch this year and last year. So O'Connell better develop, or JJ okay. O'Connell better develop JJ or he will be fired. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's another thing, is that he has to start over Sam Darnold, but should he? Because I always thought Sam Darnold was capable of being a starter. I loved him coming out of USC. Remember, he's the 6th overall pick. And I actually think, to be honest with you, coming out of college, there's no question Darnold was better than McCarthy, but since you drafted McCarthy 10th overall, you kind of got to play him. Look, bottom line, you gave up a lot of draft capital for Dallas Turner. You gave up a 2025 third and fourth, and he has to have an immediate impact. Listen, Brian Flores' defense is a complex defense. Comes from, the Bill Belichick tree. It's not a simple defense, even though he played at Alabama and he's used to playing a pro-style defense. The NFL is always different in college. Brian Flores' defense was a lot of fun to watch, but it was very confusing. So sitting here and saying, hey, a rookie's going to come in and he's going to have an immediate impact, you can't really say that. I mean, you could say it's a little different because Will Anderson went to a defense last year that was pretty easy to acclimate to, even though he switched positions. You're staying as a outside linebacker, but it's a much more complex defense. By the way, look at how brutal the NFC North is. You got one team that was a quarter and a half away from a Super Bowl. Another team that beat Dallas in the playoffs, almost beat San Francisco. Both Detroit and Green Bay gave San Francisco a lot of problems in the playoffs, right? And then you still got Chicago. So you gotta hurry up and develop. And by the way, Minnesota's probably going to probably day one starter is going to be a rookie quarterback in a brutal division. If I'm a Vikings fan, I'm like, God, I hope so. But what are you going to do if things don't pan out? Well, you know what? You're already missing a 3rd and a 4th round draft pick. So JJ should be better than Sam Darnold. JJ job. I agree completely, Perry, but I'm just going by, if you go just off what you see in college, and that's it. Forget the NFL. Sam Darnold's a much better prospect than JJ McCarthy, and I don't even think it's close. And look, he's been with a couple different teams, and he's had some bad experiences. But every team he's been to, I know San Francisco, but he didn't really have a chance ever to start. But with the Jets defensive-minded coach, I forgot where he went before San Francisco, but he's never really had a chance to develop. This is kind of the perfect spot for him to develop. And guess what? What your job is? To groom the guy fresh out of college that I guarantee you the first mini camp, he's probably looking at him and going, I can do everything this guy can do except better. So, yeah, it's JJ's job to lose. Darnold really won't get a fair chance, but he didn't get a fair chance in San Francisco, and it's a shame because just coming out of college, he's the better player. So, but that's just my 2 cents. Next, my final C minus teams, the Tennessee Titans. The pros are their first two draft picks weigh 700 pounds. For those of you that don't know, J.C. Latham, the massive right tackle out of Alabama, and Tavondre Sweat, I think he's listed like 365, the massive defensive tackle out of Texas. You're in it. I mean, this is, you got some massive guys here. Perry, you're 100% correct. You get a really good team in Green Bay. The Bears are on the rise. Look at what Detroit's doing. And you're going to roll out a rookie quarterback and a guy who should be a top 10 pick. Yeah, he's good, but he has to produce. If he doesn't, you're probably going. A lot of people probably going to lose their jobs. So yeah. J.C. Latham is a solid pick. 700 pounds in the first two picks. So you're building a big physical team in Tennessee, which kind of makes sense because you got Joe Mixon, a 230-pound runner. He goes to the Houston Texans. You got Jonathan Taylor, another 230-pound running back. Travis Etienne, 215 pounds. But you got three really good running backs in that division. So get the massive space eater. That makes a lot of sense. By the way, I love my dad. I kind of forgot about this when they drafted J.C. Latham, but Bill Callahan is his dad. And Bill Callahan, remember, coach of the Raiders, famous offensive line coach. He was with Alabama when they drafted Tyron Smith, who played right tackle at USC. When he was groomed to play left tackle day one in Dallas, was a great left tackle. Jedrick Wills, another Alabama right tackle. He's now starting left tackle in Cleveland. By the way, Jedrick Wills wasn't the same prospect that J.C. Latham was. J.C. Latham's universally a better rated prospect. So you get a guy who played 3 seasons on the right side. He's going to be your day one starter, but you have an offensive line coach who's done it before. So I'm not sold on the Vikings GM. I think he's in over his head. I actually agree, Perry. I don't like any of the moves they've done the last couple of years. I remember they traded with the Lions to let the Lions move up 20 spots for a second-round pick. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Sorry, I shouldn't be cursing, but every move he's done, I kind of question. And I saw something earlier today that they're trying to get a contract ironed out for Justin Jefferson, and I can guarantee you he's going, whatever Amon-Ra St. Brown is, I want more than that, and he's going to get that. But the simple fact is that you let the Lions sign their receiver first. That was another. I mean, there's so many moves he's made, and bottom line, how many wins does he have to get for either him or O'Connell to keep their job? And you can sit here and say, well, his job's not in jeopardy. I disagree, because remember, they were 13-4 2 years ago, hosted the Giants in the playoffs, lost that game. Yeah, last year you went through like 5 quarterbacks. I get that. But what's your excuse this year? Well, we got a rookie quarterback. Okay, well, Flores is doing a good job of the defense. He has head coaching experience. Yeah. I have feelings, Mike. I do too. It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. But Latham, plenty of upside. You have experience switching a right tackle to an NFL left tackle. It's been done before, and it's been done by your dad, who's one of the premier offensive line coaches. I kind of forgot about that, and I'm going to talk about this with the Saints. But when the Saints drafted Fuega, Dennis Allen goes on in the press conference. He's like, "Well, I know he can play on the right side, but maybe he can play on the left side." And to me, that's bothersome when you draft a guy and you're like, "Well, we're not really sure where to put him." I like it when you draft a guy and like, okay, yeah, he's going to be our left tackle. So. Why would he stay on the sinking ship? Are you talking about Justin Jefferson? Justin Jefferson or Brian Flores? I mean, there's multiple Vikings. I'm looking at Minnesota and I'm like, God, what are you doing? So anyway, by the way, your 4th and 5th round picks for the Tennessee Titans both could make the team. Both might surprise starter Cedric Gray. By the way, that the Justin Jefferson holdout and trying to get him signed could potentially be a massive problem. Something we're going to pay attention to this offseason, because until he's signed, he may just not play. There's nothing forcing him to play. And we've seen this with big-time receivers being moved. It's happened. Look, Tyreek Hill's in Miami. Devontae Adams is in Vegas. I mean, it's happened before. Jarvis Brownlee is a cornerback out of Louisville I really, really liked. And Gray, I actually like both of these picks, and both of them could start. Surprisingly, they could start day one. And these are the late round picks that you want. And I've said this many times. First and second round are more for TV. You really need to find starters in rounds 3, 4, or 5 in order to get to the Super Bowl. Finding starters in the middle rounds is key, and that's something that Tennessee Titans did do. The cons, I didn't have Sweat at 38 in any mock draft ever, and that was before his DUI. And here's the deal. Everybody knows that he has a DUI, and the Titans just way overlooked it, and I think that's a problem in your very first draft. Now, keep in mind, they kept the general manager intact, but this is a bad message to send when you're a team with a first-time head coach. And keep in mind, your dad's on the coaching staff who actually has head coaching experience. It's something I really, really didn't like. And another thing, you already have Jeffrey Simmons. You had Harold Landry. You had some pieces. And here's the deal. I know you got some big running backs in this division, but when I looked at the Tennessee Titans, I never said, okay, this is a team that, hey, they need some help stopping the run. So you use 38th pick in the draft on the guy that's only going to help you on first and second down. After the DUI, I really thought that it would knock him down to maybe a 4th round pick. Getting him at 38 was not smart at all. Latham at 7. I would have liked it so much more if you had Derrick Henry. I would have liked it so much more if you had Derrick Henry, but now I'm looking at what the Bengals did offensively as what Brian Callahan wants to do offensively, because that's where he came from. And nothing seems to fit. Everything about Tennessee screams square peg round hole. Now, Denver Gator, don't get mad, because Denver Gator loves Will Levis more than life itself. Okay. Will Levis was never the type of dude that goes back 50 times a game and just ding, 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 ding. He's a guy with a big arm that wants to go downfield. And you're running this quick rhythm passing offense, but you're building a team that's built for power football. Nothing about Tennessee seems to make any sense. I would be really hard pressed. I actually may put money down on Tennessee finishing last in this division. I got a feeling this is just going to be a terrible team next year, because nothing what the Titans are doing seems to make a lot of sense to me. I think it was more of a move to give Simmons a rest. Yeah, it could be. But that's kind of a guy I want on the field. I mean, you don't take a guy at 38 who's going to be a rotational player. I really hated that pick. And I'll be honest, at Latham, I had a question mark about that. I remembered his dad, and I remember his dad did with other really good right tackles. And by the way, when you draft potential starters in rounds 4 or 5, I always look at that as a plus, but I don't think Tennessee really knows what they're doing. All right. To the picks, I gave a C4. There's only 2 teams, and that's Denver and Cleveland, and it sends to the father. And what do I mean by that? I ding both of these teams. It's not fair. Life isn't fair. Denver is paying Russell Wilson a lot to play in Pittsburgh. Cleveland gave up a lot of draft capital to get Deshaun Watson. I had a brain freeze. Is it fair that I'm dinging these teams for these guys? No. But bottom line, Deshaun Watson's played in less than half the games over the last 2 years. Now we can debate the legal issues. The game he had against the Ravens that knocked him out for a season, one of the best games I've ever seen anybody play. I'm dinging you both. All right. Is it fair? No. You know what? It just is. And by the way, I just realized went out of order alphabetically. I went Denver above Cleveland. I have no idea why I did that, but hey, you know what? I dropped the ball. On that one. So I apologize, guys. But I went Cleveland first here. Okay. So here's the drill. Cleveland's draft is really, really, really good. If you're not aware, Michael Hall Jr., he's only 20. By the way, and by the way, I can't wait to get Keaton Talk Sports here because this fall I'm going to talk more college football. Keaton Talk Sports, big Ohio State guy. Ohio State's bringing almost everybody back. This is one of their big losses, and this is a guy who's only 20 right now. He'll be 21 in a few months, and this is like a hand in a glove fit because you're on a very loaded defensive line right now, and you could just do whatever you want with Hall. You're in no rush to play him. You could throw him out there and let him sink or swim. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're just going to let him kind of rotate in, get his feet wet. And what happens when you get older? You're bigger, you're fill out. This is a guy, if he was 2 inches taller, would probably go in the first round. I'm told in some of the bowl games that he was almost unblockable. This is a guy who's got massive upside, goes to the perfect spot. Zach Minter in the third round, he may start. Another big school player. And James Thrash, a wide receiver out of Louisville, I actually most years he's the third round because this wide receiver class is loaded. He went in the fifth round. He's probably going to make the team. So, yeah. Peyton is just take a gamble on Nix. If Peyton can develop Nix, it may work out. I think draft Nix was a bit of a panic move. I'm going to go over that in just a second because I do agree with you. Because, I mean, you're at 12 and 4 quarterbacks go in the top 10. 4? Did I get that right? No, 5. So, yeah, you have to. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. The only reason I'm giving the Browns a C is because of the Watson trade and you're missing trade capital. But the players that they drafted deserve a B. And is it fair? No, but look, you're missing. I can't give you a good grade. So you guys are officially cracked out. Watson has no incentive to play well. I think he wants to play. A game against Baltimore, this final game of the season, was the best games I've ever seen anybody play. But he has to contribute, or else somebody's getting fired. The Denver Broncos here. My number one thing I liked about the Broncos is Troy Franklin. There was a lot of people before the combine that had him going in round 1. A lot of people had him going in round 1. Weighed 173, ran a 4.49 on a fast track. Getting Bo Nix's number 1 target in the top of the 4th round was just genius. By the way, I forgot his Austin Esteman, running back out of Notre Dame. I said this when he ran the 4.72. I said, listen, this is a guy who is you watch him play. He doesn't play like a 4.72 guy. He's 220. He's 230. Excuse me. Listen, this is a guy in fantasy football after round 12, snag him, because if he ends up starting, he's going to score touchdowns. He's a 3-down back. He's got power. Ignore the 4.72. He plays much faster. This is a steal. Now, for those of you that don't know, I absolutely love, oh crap, another name freeze. One of my favorite all-time players, actually, and nobody wants Javonte Williams. I'm sorry, I can't believe I forgot his name. He got hurt last year, so you get a guy that is going to play some this year. But if Javonte Williams goes down, Estimate can easily come in and be that workhorse back. This is a really great pick. By the way, both Missouri defensive backs both went much later than they should have. But Chris Abrams-Durain, he was a second-team All-American. He's going to make that Broncos team. He's the other fifth-round pick. And this is a really good player. The late-round draft picks for Denver are just phenomenal. You're just phenomenal. They're not only going to make the team, they're going to contribute. They're going to contribute a lot. Cons, of course, Russell Wilson. I didn't like their third-round pick. And then here's the deal. You draft a guy who's got some medical issues. Now, I liked him as a player. Jonah Ellis, he's going to play outside linebacker, but you used the second-round pick on Nick Bonito 2 years ago, a guy that I really liked, actually liked better coming out of Oklahoma. I liked Ellis coming out of Utah. Then you go ahead and you trade for John Franklin Myers, a guy that I really liked. And by the way, Denver, I agree completely. I do think he's going to play an interior role, but why are you drafting another edge rusher when it seems like you already got guys and he's got some medical issues? Now, if he pans out, I'll be more than happy to eat my words. But John Franklin Myers, by the way, played outside as a defensive end with the Jets. Now, I think he's going to play inside as well, but he played defensive end. You had Nick Bonito, a second-round pick 2 years ago. Why are you drafting a guy with injury issues when you're already losing draft picks? It didn't make a lot of sense to me. I didn't like it. And by the way, Knicks, I like Knicks a lot, but 12 is way too high. And I get why you did it, because the Raiders are right there at 13. They probably would have taken him. But you're kind of forced to do this. But and is it fair? No. But I will say this. If you take out their first two picks and you just grade the draft on what they did from rounds 4 through 7, it's a B+, A- draft. But I didn't like their first two picks because I didn't like the fact you draft somebody injury prone at outside linebacker, which I kind of like what you got there right now, and especially when you get a guy who played defensive end. I also didn't like the fact that look, you had to do it. But drafting Knicks 12 is just way too high. If anyone can develop Knicks, it's Peyton. Here's the thing, Barry. Drew Brees was in the NFL for several years, and he worked with Doug Flutie. He worked with Marty Schottenheimer. This was not a rookie. This was not a raw dude. People keep saying that, oh, Sean Payton can develop a rookie. He's never done it before. He's never just drafted a guy and groomed him. This is new territory for him. So people are acting like he can do it. Drew Brees, I liked probably more than I liked Bo Nix coming out of college, but Drew Brees was in the NFL for several years and learned under a future Hall of Famer and Marty Schottenheimer. Yeah, Marty's more of a defensive guy. I get that. But still, there's no guarantee that this is going to work. I think it will. Down the line, if Peyton stays, if Nick stays, if he stays healthy, if Denver can compete, what's quietly becoming kind of a loaded AFC West other than Kansas City. So with Penix at 8 and JJ at 11, Raiders at 13, how could they trade down? No, they couldn't. And here's the deal, Denver Gator. You had to do it. I get it, but I'm still not giving you credit for it. I mean, you had to do it, but you also put yourself in the situation to do it. The Denver Broncos organization brought in Sean Payton, and it was obvious that Sean Payton and Russell Wilson were not going to work. It wasn't going to work. And you got rid of Russell Wilson, and you had to do it, and you had to pay for it. And then you have to figure out a replacement. And what'd you do? You had to draft Bo Nix at 12. I'm not giving you credit because bottom line, you should have got somebody who's better suited for Russell Wilson, or better yet, you shouldn't have traded for Russell Wilson in the first place, which I knew was a big mistake to begin with. So yeah, you're right. I agree with you, but I can't give the Denver Broncos credit because they made a bunch of fuck ups in the last couple of years. So they're paying for it now, and I get it, but it's still got to work. And by the way, is there a guarantee that first-round quarterbacks are going to work out? We were just talking about Sam Darnold. I like Sam Darnold much more than I like Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy coming out of college. It didn't work out. Remember kid out of UCLA. God, what was his name? Went to Arizona, number 8 overall. Josh Rosen. Remember Josh Rosen? He didn't work out. I liked Rosen better, and I like Bo Nix. We can piss Lions fans off, talk about Joey Harrington. He was a better Oregon quarterback. But with Las Vegas took Nix, I think they would have. I think they would have. There's no guarantee, but I think they would have. All right, next, 2C plus is Chicago and my Kansas City Chiefs. Chicago, the reason why I gave them a C plus is they got their quarterback. They also got my favorite wide receiver and player in the draft in Roma Duze. By the way, the punter that they got from Iowa was their best offensive player. It sounds like I'm being facetious. I'm really not. He's a phenomenal punter, and you need a guy that's a good punter who's used to punting in bad weather, so it's a good move. By the way, they got some late round picks that I really, really liked. The Bears quietly did some really, really smart things here. Kieran Amaduge, I cannot get that right. Tackle out of Yale. I've been mocking him in the second round. No, Rosen, that's kind of what I heard, but there's no bottom line when it comes to quarterback is the most crapshoot of any position. You just don't know. You really don't. And look at the Mac Jones is with a new team. Now is in Philly, Pittsburgh quarterback. Number 8, Pittsburgh quarterback, University of Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh Steelers. He's gone. I mean, there's a short leash for quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett. It's always 50-50. And here's the problem with Nix. He has to start day one. So, yeah, yeah. But here's the deal. By the way, the tackle out of Yale is raw, but very talented. He may play on the interior. They're calling him a tackle, so I'm going to call him a tackle, but he's very talented. They have a 5th round edge rusher in Austin Booker out of Texas. I've seen a lot of mock drafts where he goes 2nd or 3rd round. This is a guy who's going to make the team. He may contribute. I don't know if he's going to be a starter or not. He really good picks. They traded back into the draft in order to get him, and this is a potentially really, really good draft pick by the Bears. Cons. I really thought that they should have given an arm and a leg, accepted an arm and a leg, and taken the trade and kept Justin Fields. When they got rid of their offensive coordinator, I was positive that they were going to keep Fields and bring in somebody who can groom Fields. it's not fair. I keep saying this, life isn't fair, but the expectations that Caleb Williams is going to have, we already talked about this, right? You got a team that went to an NFC championship game. You got a team that almost beat the 49ers and beat the Cowboys in the playoffs. Those are the two teams you got to beat. And the Vikings right now are a better team as well. Unless you're, the second coming of Patrick Mahomes. And here's the deal, Patrick Mahomes got to sit for a whole year. You got to be Superman day one. There's who's the best rookie quarterback of all time? Andrew Luck, RG3, I'm CJ Stroud. You have to be better than what CJ Stroud was last year if you're Caleb Williams. And CJ Stroud had so much more. I'm not talking offensively, but defensively. By the way, Bears have good defense. Is it Luck? Yeah. Andrew Luck. Okay. You have to, seriously, okay, take Andrew Luck's rookie year. Caleb Williams has to do that. Except better. With having some problems on the offensive line. Not having a great coaching staff. It's not fair. And bottom line, what the Bears probably have to win a minimum of 9 games or else somebody's getting fired. Multiple people are getting fired. If Williams looks shaky at all, let me throw this out there. What if Russell Wilson goes down? He's 36, okay? What if he goes down in preseason? Or whether he goes down early and Justin Fields comes out and Justin Fields looks good and Caleb Williams struggles, which is fair to say. Does the general manager keep his job? And if he loses his job, more than likely you're probably going to get a new head coach sooner or later. Now you have to find a guy that can Caleb Williams. Yeah, the wide receivers are solid. They are. I get that. I 100% agree. I love Keenan Allen. I really do. But how good do the Bears have to be this year? And by the way, the expectations, I think it's a mosquito, are just going to be crazy, and they're not fair. They're not fair, and they're not going to be fair. And listen, greatest quarterback in Bears history? Somebody asked this once, and I was surprised. But then again, I told you I'm an NFL history expert. So Sid Luckman, motherfucker played in the 40s. Modern era, who's the best quarterback for the Bears? Probably McMahon, maybe. I just, of all the teams, of all the quarterbacks in this draft, I think the expectations are going to be the most unfair and highest for a guy. And he's got to be successful right away. And he is the starter. And it's really not fair. Because Drake May, for example, in New England, you got Jacoby Brissett. All right. Michael Penix Jr. has, he's going to sit behind Kirk Cousins. Not Caleb Williams. I don't know. Do they really, Perry? Are you sure? Because there's a lot of hype behind Caleb Williams. I can see a situation where he has to be better than competitive. I really do. I think they got to be like 8-9 wins, maybe 9 minimum. They could be competitive at 6-11. By the way, Caleb Williams goes down. What do you do? I think it's a bad spot. It's not unfair pressure for a guy who's been crying after losses. So now my Kansas City Chiefs. If you're not aware, Kansas City, this is kind of a homer grade because I know a lot about the Chiefs, and they drafted Jared Wiley, a tight end out of TCU, who played quarterback for TCU, and then he made his switch to tight end, which is, by the way, exactly what Travis Kelce did. And Jared Wiley reminds me a lot of Travis Kelce. They also got this big redshirt sophomore safety in Jaden Hicks, who I've seen go a lot of mock drafts in the second round. This is a big safety. He ran 4.49 at the combine, but he's 6'2", 215, 210, somewhere in there. This is a guy that he's going to replace Mike Edwards, who left Kansas City, was with Tampa Bay, left Kansas City to play in Buffalo. This is a guy Spags, Chiefs defense coordinator, absolutely loves. Strong safety size, free safety ability, and they got 3 safeties like that are all just, they're all like 6'1", 210, 215, but they all play like free safeties. He's raw, but he's going to help on special teams this year. Really, really good player. There's no way. Yeah, I seriously, they're going to lose. They're probably going to go in that division this year 2 wins tops, probably 1-5. Probably 1-5. So the Wiley pick, I like the BYU tackle. I like not high on the wide receiver. Neither am I. I'm going to go over that in a second, Perry. The Chiefs' 4th round picks are really what I get. The reason why I went from maybe a C- to a C+, because these 2 guys you could not find better fits for both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. By the way, in the late round picks, Hunter Nazard started like 40 some games for Penn State at center, and CJ Hansen started like 36 games at Holy Cross. Here's the deal. A couple of years ago, they drafted Trey Smith in the 6th round, starter at guard, went to a couple Pro Bowls. I'm kind of surprised he didn't hold out this year, but he hasn't. And then they drafted Creed Humphrey, who some people think is the best center in football. You're playing this was a really smart move, getting guys that can replace both of them in late rounds. And they have a lot of experience. They're not the same type of player, but look, you got a lot of money. You're giving 15. And so you got a lot of money that you're giving Chris Jones. A lot of people you may not remember, Chris Jones signed for like $130 million over the next 5 years. So you may have to lose an offensive lineman, which would suck. But that's why I really, really like those picks. And by the way, they drafted a 6th round corner out of Tennessee. The only reason he goes into 6 rounds, he ran a 4.59. He runs 4.49, probably a 3rd round pick, 6'1", 190. Perfect size for a Spags defense. This is the guy who's built to play in a Spags defense. So really good job. By the way, Sue Mateus, Penei Sewell's cousin, could be a day 1 starter. This is the 2nd straight year that the Chiefs I had a higher rated grade on the Chiefs' 2nd round pick than I did the 1st round pick. Last year, I had Rashee Rice rated higher than FAU. FAU barely made the field, but Rashee Rice was a guy I would have preferred in the 1st round. I would have liked it better last year if you took Rashee Rice in round 1, FAU in round 2. And then this year, I would have liked it if you took Sam Matea in round 1 and Worthy at round 2. By the way, Adonde Mitchell was the better receiver, and he went to the Colts at, I think, 51. So, yeah, I didn't like it. Didn't like that pick at all. Are you happy or not happy of Xavier Worthy? I'm very unhappy. Very surprised Buffalo traded. I was really surprised Buffalo traded with Kansas City too. And this year I used a Rich Hill trade chart, and I forgot to put that in the description below. The Rich Hill trade chart ended up showing that to be a push. And by the way, I think both teams made out really well because Kansas City ended up with a 4th round pick. I believe that pick they used on Wiley, who's going to eventually replace Travis Kelce. He's a very, very, very similar player to Travis Kelce. coming out TCU. Kelsey was a former quarterback turned tight end at Cincinnati, a raw dude, goes to the right team. Well, you take a guy who's 6'6", 240, runs a 4.6, got all the talent in the world, but he's former quarterback, could not go to a better team. Could not go to a better team. I don't like his drop rate in route running. I think Ladder Purcell would have been a better fit. I do too, Perry. And by the way, what's the one thing Chiefs fans were complaining about were drops, and then they draft a receiver who drops a lot of passes. Boofa! Oh, it's my boy Boofa. Hey, at least your Chiefs took a first-round wide receiver. I know they drafted the wrong guy. Didn't like this pick at all. Hated this pick. FAU is a high ceiling guy. He's going to get a chance to contribute, but right now he's just buried in the depth chart. I actually thought, and I still think that he may be a guy that's trade bait. But no, I didn't like this pick at all, Boofa, because you have Hollywood Brown. Are you still a rent happy? LOL. Are you still a rent happy? Are you, and you're still aren't happy? No, I'm not happy at all. Wiley can develop. Absolutely, he can. No, I'm not happy at all. I don't like this pick at all. He dropped a lot of passes in college. You got a guy in Hollywood Brown who's the same player except better. Adonde Mitchell would have been the better pick. Adonde Mitchell ran a 4.33, but he's 6'2", 205, and with better hands. Why not draft that guy instead? The Colts get him at 51. You got a guy at 28 who's not as good. Bottom line, listen, if I outweigh you, which I do, not by much, I'm about 170. You shouldn't go in the first round. But Deshaun Jackson won Rookie of the Year his first year in the league. He was a second-round pick, by the way. I like Deshaun Jackson coming out of Cal more than I like Xavier Worthy coming out of Texas, by the way. I do remember Deshaun Jackson coming out, and I was like, I liked him a lot. I didn't feel the same way about Worthy. Guy drops a lot of passes. What's the one thing Chiefs fans were most frustrated with last year? Drop passes. So why did we trade up for a receiver who drops passes? So, but if he ends up being Deshaun Jackson, then great. I really hated this pick. I thought it was a bad move. And to be fair, Veach has made some bad moves. So this is one of them. The reason why the Chiefs get a C+ is because is seriously this tight end that they got, Jared Wiley and Jaden Hicks, these fourth-round picks are amazing players that are going to help immediately. So you know me, I would never draft. I didn't know that. I actually thought you liked the pick. I really didn't hate it. I really didn't like it. I'm so happy to get Boofa here. I missed Boofa. For those of you who don't know, like Boofa last year came over. And by the way, Boofa, I should have asked, but I already know that you wouldn't be allowed to come out to Vegas for the draft. But you could have actually, you know what, Boofa? I would have crashed on the couch. The couch actually folds out. It's a perfect bed. You could have slept in my bed. I would have got more. I would have got bed sheets. I should have made the offer, but I already know. Yeah, Blake Bell's gone. One thing I do like about Kansas City is that I think we're going to see a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets. It's just a question of when we're going to get Riley up to speed. And I think it'll take some time. That's what Hollywood Brown was. We replaced him already, and then we drafted another guy. And I really hated it. Everybody misses Boofa. No, yeah, I forgot. Yeah. Mike, I'm going to say this now, and I'll text you later on, but you have the invite to come out here and stay with me. If I'm still in Vegas for next draft, I'm going to make sure you have a place to stay. I have some extra sheets and stuff, and they're all yours. I'll crash on the couch. But you have an invite already. If I'm still in Vegas, because my lease is up in February, and who knows. Worst case scenario, I'm living in Chad's driveway in February. With Worthy, if he learns fast, work on catching, route running. That's what they're banking on, but I really hated it. I really hated the draft pick. Really not happy. We'll go into my B minuses, and there's a lot of them. I have Detroit, Indianapolis, Vegas, the Saints, Seattle, San Francisco, and Tampa Bay. I'm not joking. I might just like live in. I might just sleep in my car in his driveway. So if you see my car, you know where I'm living at. So, but actually, I haven't talked to him too much. We texted a little bit, but I haven't talked to him too much. But if I'm still out here for next draft, Mike, you have an open invite, and the couch I got, it's super firm, but it's kind of cool. It kind of folds out, so that was why I got it. And also, it lifts up so you can put stuff. I'll show it. Hopefully, you can come out. Actually, I tell you the truth, I'd love for all you guys to come out. I really miss my friends in Kansas City. So, yeah, I know. I really wanted to attend that. Mary sent me a text, and I wasn't able. But I miss all you guys. Even Scott. I actually miss Scott. Scott, I'd let Scott stay here. If you and Scott want to share a bed together, it's on you. That's all I'm gonna say. I think Lions fans are really going to hate my B- grade. I expect Funk to be mad at me right now. But let's get into it. Okay. The Detroit Lions, I gave a B- too. And here's the deal. Their first two picks, yeah. But between now and the draft, who knows? I'll either be living in Chad's driveway, somewhere else. I probably won't be here. I'm not. I do not like this back. For me, the Lions draft is Holmes taking risk. I'm going to go into that. I call back spoon with. Denver Gator. I was going to say, because the couch is firm, you may like the couch, but yeah, you can take the bed. So, yeah, I listen. I miss my friends, man. I miss my friends. You could not get better value in the first two rounds. By the way, Enos Rakestraw cost himself a lot of money when he ran the 4.59 at the combine, but go watch some film on him. He's not a 4.59 guy. I found out later that he was actually injured and that affected his time. But if you go watch him, he's not a 4.59 guy. He looks like he's 6 foot 195. He's 5'11, 180, 185. Not afraid to stop the run. Matter of fact, you could have drafted Rakestraw at 29, and I would have been happy. It wouldn't surprise me if Rakestraw is actually better than Terrion Arnold year one. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Buy a tough shed and make a spot. I might need to do that. I really liked Rakestraw at 29. That's one of my favorite picks in the draft. And then you move up 5 spots to get Terrion Arnold. A lot of people thought he was a top 10 pick. Now, I'm going to be very clear about something. I think Arnold's a little raw. And remember, he started his career at safety. If he struggles, I don't think it's a problem to say, hey, listen, we're going to move you at safety. And I can see Detroit getting a little creative here. But ideally, he picks up playing corner fast. By the way, for those of you that don't know, I put LDT down. That's Lunarne Darnif Tardif, Dr. Tardif. So I know Brad Holmes is the GM for the Detroit Lions, and John Dorsey's not even the assistant manager. He's got some other job title, but John Dorsey came with Andy Reid in 2013, and there's not 10 people more responsible for the Chiefs Super Bowl win, the first one against 49ers, than John Dorsey. And when I look at the Detroit Lions, I look at the way the Chiefs were built under John Dorsey. By the way, it took the Chiefs, 6 or 7 years to win a Super Bowl, but they did do it. And there's a lot of similarities to how these two teams are built. One of them is that the Chiefs drafted a guy attending medical school and I think it's the same school. I think it was British Columbia. I could be wrong about that. I don't remember, but The Chiefs drafted him in the 6th round. They made an exception. By the way, when you draft an overseas player, you get player exception. So you get an extra player to the roster. It doesn't count against your roster limit. The Chiefs let him go to medical school, and then when he completed, he came back and was a starter for several years at guard. So when COVID hit, LDT, it's Lunarne, Tardy, something like that. We used to call him LDT. When COVID hit, he went back to Canada to help out with COVID. The Chiefs ended up using a 6th-round pick on Trey Smith. They inserted him in training camp, and right away they were like, oh, yeah, he's better. So they traded Tardy to the Jets. And he actually quit football and is kind of a cool story. But John Dorsey has a history with drafting Canada players and have them being starting NFL talent. The thing is, though, with Giovanni Manu is that his position is right tackle, and you already got Penei Sewell. And by the way, I would have liked this better if you didn't sign Penei Sewell and then you're using this as leverage. Now that you already got him, signed, this is a guy that you by the way, you did give up a next year 2025 third to the Jets for this pick. So I don't get it. You drafted a defensive tackle at LSU, Malik Wingo. This guy is a steal. I call it the NFL 20 because he's about 280, somewhere around there. He'll need to put on some size, but he's a guy that's going to be used in sub packages, obvious 3rd down situations, and he could really help out. I don't know if he's going to play much in 2024, but you could get a real steal. Ratsher, I under the pick, but I think he should have been O-line with our 2nd-round pick. He was McGill. It was Larville, Darneef, something like I called him LDT. Most Chiefs fans did. My biggest concern in the draft is this a Bob Quinn draft? Lions fans would be freaking out. Yeah. Okay, so let me go back here. Part of the reason why, and I want to emphasize this. When I went into this draft, I'm looking at the Detroit Lions as a team that got better in free agency, not worse like I expected. The 49ers I thought got worse. So going into this draft, I'm thinking to myself, the Lions are going to attack this draft as a team that's Super Bowl bound. Then they had a draft that really didn't make a lot of sense. This right here, you got rid of a 2025 third for a right tackle when you just paid your starting right tackle, what was it, $112 million? I didn't get that. You used your 3rd-round pick. By the way, you can say, well, we had to trade for Carlton Davis because we lost Cam Sutton. That's not an addition. By the way, I think it was One Pride who was trying to tell me Sutton was the number 1 corner. I was like, I didn't see it. I never saw that at Pittsburgh. Carlton Davis isn't as good as Sutton. At least I didn't think so. So use your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round picks all on corners, including Carlton Davis, into trade. You needed an edge rusher, you didn't get one. You needed a wide receiver, you didn't get one. This is not a guy who should be playing this year. You gave up a 2025 third to trade up for him. You had a bunch of draft picks, but you end up with 6 total. And who was your other 4th round pick? By the way, they're calling him a safety, but he switched to running back. And I'll be honest with you, they're still calling him a safety. I think he'd be better suited to play running back. But you already have 2 running backs. This draft didn't make a lot of sense for me. And by the way, if Bob Quinn did make this draft, Lions fans would hate it. I think a lot of Lions fans are and they should, by the way. I want to be very clear. They should be going, hey, we're drinking the Kool-Aid. Hey, we're a Super Bowl caliber team. We're here. This draft didn't say that at all. I mean, Terrion Arnold, as much as I like him, he's still a raw dude. Rakestraw's fantastic. Rakestraw's a guy who can play inside, outside, day one starter. Carlton Davis, yeah, he's a solid number 2 guy. So a rookie's your number 1. Look at the teams. Look at the Baltimore Ravens, multiple pass rushers. Kansas City Chiefs, multiple pass rushers. San Francisco 49ers, multiple pass rushers. Then you have Aiden Hutchinson. By the way, they have some other guy that had a bunch of sacks his rookie year, didn't play last year due to injury. Well, he's 240. Holmes used too much next year's draft capital. Holmes better hope this pick works out. The season goes sideways. Fans will turn fast on Holmes. I'm waiting to. Yeah, I'm kind of glad because I really expected Lions fans to say that this draft was an A or an A plus because Terrion Arnold should not be available at 24. And I love the trade up, even though you gave up too much. And then I liked Rakeshaw at 29, but man, you could have got a wide receiver in this draft. You could have got an edge rusher. And I really, when I looked at this draft, this is not a draft of a team that's thinking we can win a Super Bowl this year. It's just not. And it really bothered me because I really thought that after free agency, this team was saying, hey, we're going to win a Super Bowl this year. And this draft doesn't say that at all because you got some developmental guys and you gave up draft picks for next year. There's a lot of this draft I didn't like for a team that I really was expecting to be and I still am. I still think that they're a Super Bowl contender. This draft and the way that this team is conducting themselves, it seems like they don't believe that they're there yet. And I think they are. So we'll find out. Next team I gave a B- to are the Indianapolis Colts. They took Adonde Mitchell 24 picks later than the Chiefs drafted Xavier Worthy. I really thought that these two could have and probably should have been flipped. The Chiefs should have drafted Adonde Mitchell instead. Latte Latu hype was getting crazy. There was a lot of people that thought that you could have drafted Latu at 8 with the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, they went to quarterback. I kept on hearing Latu's the best defensive player in the draft. The cool thing is with the Colts is that they already have some good defensive linemen. He does not have to play right away. You can bring it in and develop him slowly. Samson Ikubon, who I think had 9.5 sacks last year, he's probably going to replace him sometime this year. And he's a little bigger. Kwity Paye was a former first-round pick out of Michigan. He's the other defensive lineman. This is a raw dude. I want to say he was from was it Libya, Kuwait, something like that? And he's starting to grow into his role. Bottom line, you got a potential for just this destructive defensive line. You still got Preston Buckner there. There's a lot to like about the Colts defensive line. And the best part is he doesn't have to start right away. What they did is they made some low-key moves in the rounds 3 or 4. I wouldn't call these guys steals, but these are guys that could potentially, especially your third-round pick. I think his name, I'm going to say his name is Matt Cavanaugh, but that's not right. Matt Cavanaugh is a former quarterback who turned quarterbacks coach. Matt Conclaves, I believe that's how you pronounce it. There's a chance he takes over as a left tackle for Bernard Raymond, who was a third-round pick out of Central Michigan. Bernard Raymond's fun story. Came to the United States from Germany, didn't know anything about football, played tight end, goes to Central Michigan, puts on the NFL 20. Next thing you know, he's left tackle size, but he's raw, and he ends up starting. He's not bad, but he not elite. So you get a guy in the third round that may replace him. I think that's really, really good move. By the way, they drafted a pair of fifth-round safeties. Both these guys I really liked, and both are probably going to play in 25. I think it's Julian Blackman. He signed a 1-year deal. He's a starting free safety. signed a 1-year deal. You obviously don't think he's the long-term solution. So you draft a couple guys in the 5th round that may replace him next year. Very, very smart. Most Lions fans love this draft. Too many are not looking at the big picture. We have a tough season. If any of our O-line goes down for a long time, the season's done. Yeah, after the first 2 rounds, I loved Rake Straw at 29. Okay, I want to be very clear because the Lions could, when I say 29, he drafted and picked 29 in the 2nd round. So 61, I think it is. You could drafted him in the 1st round, and I would have been, that's like, hey, that's a good pick. But here's the deal. The 29 to 24 move, they gave up a 3rd round pick. Then they traded up in the 4th round, giving up a 3rd round next year. I didn't get that at all. And yeah, the Chiefs did that with LDT, but they had a 6th round pick for a guy who was a future starter. Giving up a 2025 third for a project didn't make any sense at all because you're basically the position that you want to play this guy at's right tackle. And are the Lions planning on moving Soul over to the left side? Or they think that Giovanni's going to play guard? I don't know. It really bugged me because the Lions, I really thought were going to draft like a team trying to win a Super Bowl, and that this draft wasn't it. It really bothered me. So, yeah, I give him a B-. I thought that was fair. Exactly. You're 100%. You're 100% correct, Perry. And I really thought that they should have been drafting more for this year. Perry, I'm really surprised you nailed it. And I think you agree with my B- assessment. I think Funk's going to hate it. So Funk, if you're paying attention, if you're at this point in the video, I fully expect you to hate my B- grade, but I do think it's fair. The cons for the Colts is I really was expecting a cornerback. Now keep in mind they signed brain freeze, Kenny Moore to a 3-year deal this offseason. And just because he's 5'9", they just assume he's going to play nickel. No, he's an outside corner. He can play inside, but he's the outside guy. They drafted the big corner out of K-State. He's like 6'3", 6'4", 205 in the 2nd round last year. And I thought he played okay, but I'm not sure he's really the starter. I really, to be honest with you, I thought that he'd be better as a number 2 guy. You bring in a corner, and by the way, at pick number 15, you could have drafted any corner. You didn't draft one until round 6. You also didn't draft a linebacker, so you're assuming that they're going to stay healthy. Okay. And then Zach Moss led the team in rushing last year. Now, they signed Jonathan Taylor to the big contract. Okay. I get that. But Zach Moss really had a great season last year, and you just ignored it completely. Listen, Latu, if they're talking about Latu being the best defensive player in the draft, if Latu ends up being a star, and I keep hearing TJ Watt comparisons, okay, fine. If that happens, then you're going to get a better than a B- grade, but I really thought that they could have addressed some other issues, but what they got was really good. The Colts I really struggled because I could easily give them a C. I could easily give them a B+ because I like what they did in the later rounds of the draft, and Latu's really hard to argue against. And then you get a guy at 51 or 52 who I think the Chiefs should have taken at 28. So B- is tough for me, but I felt fair. B- to A-. For just the first 2 rounds, I was going to give the Lions a B+. Then and the reason why they didn't get an A- is because they gave up a third to move up 5 spots, which is fair, but the Cowboys won that trade, let's be honest. Then they kept on giving away, and they kept on making bad trade after bad trade, and that's why I gave them a B minus. Is that, by the way, I mean there's a chance they may have a couple of Pro Bowl corners out of this draft, but they need the other spots. Layout is a solid pickup, but I thought corner Bowers, if he fell to 15, I really thought corner would have been the move. And look at the division that you're in. You got Will Levis, Denver Gators boy. Then you also have you got C.J. Stroud, reigning rookie of the year. Looks like he's going to be a star. You still got Trevor Lawrence, who I think when everything's said and done, he's going to win at least one MVP. He was my MVP pick last year. Didn't pan out, but he's still a stud. And you're banking on Julian Brents, a second-round pick last year, who flashed, but I'm not sold on him. Kenny Moore's really good. But, yeah, I was really surprised they ignored corner completely. Yeah, there is a risk. Funk was adamant that there is no risk. Medical doctors cleared him. But to be honest, he's a better fit than Dallas Turner because they run a more of an even front with the Gus Bradley defense. But, there is some risk. There is some risk. Speaking of Bowers, I gave the Raiders a B minus. Jackson Powers Johnson somehow goes to round 2. And the Raiders picked up Zach Moss after Jacobs left in free agency for a boatload of money. And by the way, I really love Zach Moss because he's a big, powerful runner. Loved him coming out of Utah. He's one of my favorite players. Hold on. Do I got my names wrong? No, he didn't go there. I'm sorry. I don't know why I thought that. Zach Moss went somewhere. Zamir White is actually the starting running back. Who's a big, powerful dude out of Georgia, but I think he ran like a 4.7 something. Bottom line, what the Raiders are doing is that they're building a physical, powerful team. And you get Jackson Powers Johnson in the second round. He's starter at center. Great pick, all right? In the 4th and 5th round, they got some really, really, really good players. For those of you who don't know, I didn't know who Demarison Richardson was until the combine, but he was 6'2", 190, ran a 4.34. But unlike guys that are, tall, long, and fast, this is a power dude. This is a dude not afraid of contact. Normally, when you say somebody 6'2", 190 runs a 4.34, you say, well, he has to play corner. That's not necessarily true. He might have a better fit at free safety, but you get him in the 4th round. That's a great value. Tommy Eichenberg, linebacker for Ohio State's just a tackling machine. Why did he last at 5th round? I don't know. Both these guys are making the team. Both are going to help on special teams. Both could end up being starters. This could be a potentially steal. This could be, I meant to say stellar draft. That's steal applause. But anyway, really, really great draft by the Raiders if those picks pan out. Now, Bowers at 13, last year they used a high second-round draft pick on my favorite tight end, Michael Mayer. Now, Michael Mayer is your stereotypical wide tight end. He can block. He can split out wide. He was called Baby Gronk by Notre Dame's fans. Started as a true freshman. I actually thought that his potential is still growing. I don't think the Raiders are really developing him right because I think this is a guy that you can use all over, and that's just what I see. So that's what I look at. But I'm kind of expecting a lot of 2 tight end sets here. B minus really says One Pride. Yeah, I knew you wouldn't like it, but for a team that I think that should be thinking Super Bowl, that's not how they drafted, and I was really disappointed. Yeah, the B minus is warranted. I really thought going into this draft, the Lions would draft players who could help you win this year, and that's not what they're thinking. And I'm really, really sad. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel by the Raiders this year, because you got to get those 2 tight ends on. There is a possibility maybe you want to move Meyer. Like they didn't use him the right way at all, and I was really surprised because this is a guy that I really think that you could flex out. He did that at college, even though he's like 260. They didn't do that last year at all. They had him block more than anything else, and he can do that, but he's got good hands. You got to have a lot of 2 tight end sets when you take a tight end at 13, then use I think it was pick 36 last year on a tight end. So you got to do it, but it's a weird draft by the Raiders because, I mean, there's no quarterback. The running back out of New Hampshire is a guy that a lot of people are talking about. Ton of production, can catch, he can return kicks, he's going to make the team. But you lost Jacobs in free agency. Zamir White is more of a power dude. I didn't think he's a bell cow type of back. And then, by the way, look at the division that you're in. Okay, you got Patrick Mahomes, you got Justin Herbert. I'm not joking when I say this, but who would you rather have, Gardner Minshew or Bo Nix? Look, 6 quarterbacks were gone by the time you pick at 13. I get it. But what do you do? Overall, I mean, JPJ in round 2 is this is a guy that's probably going to be a 12-year starter at center. Powerful dude. You got a big running back. You got talent on that offensive line. The offensive line's big, physical, and tough. You got a big, physical, tough running back. Great. You got 2 really good tight ends. Both are physical. Both can block. Both can split out, even though you didn't use Meyer that way last year. So Devontae Adams still one of the best receivers in football, but we'll have to see, man. I could easily make this a C+, but Bowers and JPJ are really, really good. I think Bowers would have been the pick if Las Vegas didn't take him to Cole. Yeah. I would have said no because they drafted a couple former basketball players, Mo Ali Cox and was it Jeloni Woods? They drafted Jeloni Woods 1 or 2 years ago. He's 6'7", 260. He ran a 4.6 at the combine. He keeps flashing but he hasn't all come together yet. But if they did draft Bowers, you probably have to let one of those guys go because they're both backups at this point. I gave the Saints a B-, and Spencer Rattler in round 5. It's kind of funny. The Saints have 5 quarterbacks currently on their roster, which is kind of comical. And that includes Taysom Hill, which I don't think that they're going to use Taysom Hill as a quarterback anymore, but you still have Taysom Hill there. This was a sneaky good draft here. The one thing I didn't like is that I watched the Dennis Allen press conference about Felice Fuega, and where the Titans were adamant that J.C. Latham's going to be the starting left tackle. They're like, when they talked about Fuega, they're like, well, you know, he could play right tackle, which he played in college. We think he can play guard. Maybe he can play left tackle. And when you pick in the first and second round, you trade it up in the second round, and then you don't pick again to the 5th round. You don't want to hear, well, we have to figure out what we're going to do. You kind of want to have a plan in play. That really bugged me. But Fuega is a guy that they're changing how they're doing the Saints. Now, remember, Harold Carmichael moved on. He was a longtime offensive coordinator. He was there when Sean Payton was there, and Dennis Allen was the defensive coordinator. Dennis Allen got promoted to head coach. Sean Payton went to a retirement. Now he's with Denver. He kept Carmichael. This year, they're like, no, we're done. We're done with the pass-happy offense. We're going to be a run-first team. Get a guy like Fuega. Great. Christian Boyd out of Northern Iowa is a guy that had no business being in the 6th round. If he played in the SEC, he's probably a 2nd-round pick. This is a really, really good draft pick. And Kool-Aid McKinstry might start opposite Marshawn Lattimore on the other side. Bowser was more NFL ready than the tight end showing flashes. Bowser's, yeah, I agree too. But over the last couple of years, the Colts have acquired tight ends with talent. So if you draft a guy like Bowers, you kind of let one of those guys go. And I think the plan is to try to have these tight ends develop with your super talented quarterback. That's just my opinion. But if you draft Bowers, you let one of those guys go, or instead you draft a super talented receiver who may be the best receiver on your team in 2025. And then if one of these tight ends develops, you may have a steal there at tight end. So that's kind of my thought process. And besides Latu, the sky's the limit with Latu. Kool-Aid McKinstry, I think he's a day one starter opposite Lattimore. I also think Kool-Aid could play inside too. I'm not 100% sure on that, but there's a chance you may get a couple studs day one, and Christian Boyd's going to make this team. You picked up Chase Young in free agency. Remember, second overall pick as a rookie, looked like he was going to be all world, didn't really flash. Saints had I think the Saints did have a solid draft, Perry. I really liked it because Boyd's going to make the team and contribute on the defensive line. Okay. Fuega, I was a little disappointed then on the plan and play because there is a chance that he's going to move over to the left side, but we'll find out. I'm going to pay a lot of attention because I think he's going to be the right tackle. But when I heard Dennis Allen's press conference and we're not really sure what we're going to do with him, that bothered me. But Kool-Aid could start day one. Christian Boyd's going to help out this team. So yeah, Thomas Jr. fell too far in the draft. The Jags got a steal. We'll talk about. I do want to talk about that because I do want to bring that up. So. But and also you get Spencer Rattler. So I love the Fuega pickup. I would have gone with Fatanu as well. Yeah, I kept on mocking Fatanu, and you could have gone either one. But yeah, you improved the offensive line. You needed help on the offensive line. Plus, you're changing your offensive scheme and philosophy of the team. You're becoming more of a smash mouth team. So get a quote unquote phone booth blocker. But Fuega also has excellent feet. So I really like the pickup. But you didn't get an edge rusher, but you're banking on Chase Young. He's on a 1-year deal, so be motivated. But still, I mean, let's just say Chase Young pans out, or if he doesn't pan out, you still got to address that next year. Cam Jordan and Demario Davis are both going to be 35 when the season starts. Cam Jordan's play really dipped last year. He was injured, but he did play through it, but he only had 2.5 sacks, a career low. Look, man, Father Time's undefeated, and Demario Davis keeps playing at a super high level, but he is going to be 35. So you didn't draft a replacement. Keep in mind, you didn't have a pick in rounds 3 or 4, so I get it. But I gave the Seattle Seahawks a B. Got to sneeze again. Thought I had to sneeze again. So I gave the Seattle Seahawks a B- as well. Christian Hayes is a guy I really fell in love with, 4-year starter at UConn. This is a day one starter, one of my big draft crushes. By the way, in the 4th round, Tyreek Knight set like a tackle record at UTEP. I think he led all of NCAA in like solo tackles. This is a tackling machine, goes to the right place. Look, you have a history with Michigan, so you draft a Michigan guy. He's different than Noah Fant. This is more of a blocking type. Well, what do you want to do? You want to run the ball. So this is a really, really good pickup because it's a different type of guy. It also leads me to believe that you're going to run a little more 12 personnel. So I do really like this move. Keep in mind, I'm also giving them credit because they traded for Leonard Williams last year. That's why they don't have a 2nd round pick in this year's draft. They weren't going to draft somebody as good as Leonard Williams in the 2nd round. Let's be honest. Now he is 30, but this is a really good matchup because you draft a super talented Byron Murphy. Now you pair him up with a guy that you got to worry about, Leonard Williams. So I think it's a really good fit. And Leonard Williams counts as a second-round draft pick. Perry says the Seahawks GM is he is a good GM. And by the way, things have changed because Pete Carroll had personnel control. That's now with John Schneider. And I really like what John Schneider did with this draft. What I didn't like, he drafted a pair of corners, didn't draft the safety. Remember, both starting safeties are gone. I really thought that they would do more than just one defensive line and one linebacker. Mike McDonald, that's kind of what he made his calling on in Baltimore, and I really thought that they would do more. This is a really good draft. By the way, what they did in this draft, if you're not familiar, they drafted Nakia Pritchett and DJ Barnes in top of the fifth. Pritchett was first pick in the 5th round. DJ James, mid-6th round pick. These are both corners from Auburn. I think both these guys are going to make the team, and both these guys will contribute probably on special teams. Pritchett's a guy that may surprise because drawing a blank on the guy's name. Hold on, a complete blank. Had a Pro Bowl year as a rookie. Tyreek Woolen got benched last year. Don't be surprised if even though he's a 5th round pick, if he gets a chance to start. Under Pete Carroll didn't care what round you're drafted in. He gave you a chance. I don't know, but there's a chance Pritchett takes away that starting spot opposite Witherspoon. So it'll be interesting to see. But, man, I really like this. I really like this draft a lot, and I almost gave it a B, but I just felt it kind of warranted a B-. I wondered, but man, you get day one starter at guard. Tyreek Knight, if he starts like he could, this is going to be a really good draft. And there's a good chance that you got some guys late in the draft that are going to start. What did I say earlier? Great. How you win a Super Bowl is you got to draft starters rounds 3, 4, and 5. And I think that's what Seattle did. The 2nd round pick is basically Leonard Williams. He's going to be better than any 2nd round pick. This is a guy I really like. Byron Murphy, I wonder how that's going to work out. Bottom line, Byron Murphy ends up being the day one starter and a difference maker. This draft is much better than a B-. Much better than B-. Yeah, you heard that. Another team I gave a B- to is the San Francisco 49ers. By the way, so what they did is they made a lot of trades in this draft. They got 3 late 4th round picks. They got Malik Mustafa, safety out of Wake Forest. This is a really good player. He's going to make the team and may end up surprising as a starter. Isaiah Garando, a lot of people are calling him kind of a Christian Hayes is going to be a really good player. Isaac Garando, we're comparing him to Isaiah Pacheco because Isaiah Pacheco was over 210, and I think he ran like a 4.37 or something like that. Well, Garando was 220, ran a 4.33. I watched him play only the last game, which was against USC. Now, USC had a bad defense. Several of their starters sat out because they were playing in the Holiday Bowl. They're not playing in the national championship. So I kind of glossed over the fact that because he had 160 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns against USC. And then they did lose that game to USC, but still it was really impressive. And I saw him at the combine. He was 221. He ran a 4.33. That's a great low-key pick for the 49ers. So the 49ers did a lot of maneuvering in this draft. Ended up with some really good late round draft picks. By the way, he's listed as a tackle by ESPN. He's going to play guard. Dominic Pooney is Oregon transfer to KU. This is a guy who's probably going to start day one. This is a really, really good player. So here's the deal. They went in this draft needing a wide receiver and a corner. They got both of them. They got a starter on the offensive line in the 3rd round. Then they get a bunch of really good draft picks in the 4th round. And I put down 2004. So here's what I didn't like. I thought Pearsall was a reach and Ronaldo Green was a reach. They're both good players. I don't have a problem with either one of them. I think you could have got them later. That's all. They gave up a third for Chase Young, and he's with the Saints. If they didn't give up a third-round pick and they drafted whoever, or let's just say I overlooked the Chase Young pick, this is a B draft. Overall, the 49er general manager do good drafts. The only real mistake was and by the way, they lucked out, but yeah, except for that, they give John Lynch a lot of credit. He's done a fantastic job. This draft is really, really, really good too, by the way. This is a really good draft. It gets a B minus. The only reason this draft gets a B minus is because you gave up a third round pick for Chase Young, who by the way didn't play that well with the 49ers, and he's gone. Yeah, this is a really good draft for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I forgot one more team. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I also gave a B minus to. I really expected them to go defense in round one, and they didn't. They got Graham Bartram, day one starter at center. This is a smart move. By the way, every draft pick they made in between rounds 2 and 4 are fantastic. Chris Braswell, perfect fit, perfect scheme, good value. Tyreek Smith played safety at Georgia. Get him at the bottom of third, great value. Jalen McMillan. The other receiver, Polk, went, 34, 36 to the Patriots? No, 37 to the Patriots. I thought McMillan was just as good. I really didn't think there was too much of a difference between the two. One goes early in the second, one goes late in the third. So obviously I like the McMillan pick better. Bucky Irvin is a guy who I think will play some this year, and I really liked it. Yeah, the Young trade wasn't all in for the Super Bowl, and I give you credit for it, and you did get to a Super Bowl, but this is a draft grade, and he's no longer there, so I ding you for it. But yeah, I know. I ding you for it because he's no longer there. And by the way, he didn't play that well he did get a sack in the Super Bowl, but he didn't play that well in the playoffs. So Devin Culp is a guy I watched Washington play, and Culp stood out. He's like 6'3", 225. He ran like a 4.6. He's not really a tight end, but he's a tight end. Keep in mind, Shannon Sharp, was 6'2", 225 out of Savannah State, went to the Hall of Fame. I watched Cole play, and I hate comparing, but okay, I'm not comparing the end to Sharp, but he's an undersized tight end with some speed and really, really good hands. This is a guy I really wish went to a team like Kansas City or a team that has a really creative offensive line, not Todd Bowles. If he makes the team and they figure a way to use him correctly, this could be a steal. This could be like, you talk about like who's your Brock Purdy in the draft? Watch Devin Culp, 7th round pick late in the 7th round. This could be a surprise because I really liked him. The things I didn't like is that Rachaad White, who I absolutely love, is kind of a smaller running back. I think he's listed at 220. I watched him play at Arizona State. He's more like 210, 215. Even if he puts on some weight, I really don't want him touching the ball 300 times. I really thought he'd be a better Robin than Batman. Well, Irvin's a guy who's 5'9", 195, and he's a guy also I think it's more like a Robin. Braylon Allen, who went to the Jets late in the 4th round, the 245-pound running back out of Wisconsin, I would have liked a lot better. I would have liked a bigger, more physical runner rather than a guy who's got the same skill set. But this is a guy that is going to contribute still. I still like it. I'm kind of ticky-tacky. So more bigger, faster players now. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but this is a guy that ran pretty good. I think he ran like a 4.64 at 225. He's 6'3", 225. This is a pretty good player. I was a big fan of this draft, and while there's no particular pick that I said, wow, you stole somebody, I didn't really say that about anybody in this draft. But for everything that they needed in this draft, they got in this draft. And now when I look at the NFC South, I had after Cousins, I'm like, you know what, they're going to draft an edge at 8. Well, they drafted the quarterback at 8. After the draft, I'm kind of like, who's the best team in the NFC South? I'm kind of leaning towards Tampa Bay. The 7 teams I gave a B grade to: Green Bay, Houston, Jacksonville, the Rams, Patriots, Giants, and Washington, all for different reasons. Let's dive into it here. Let's start with the Green Bay Packers. They needed a starting left tackle, check. They needed an inside linebacker, check. They needed the safety. They got 3 of them in this draft. And I really like that. And I keep in mind the Packers had a lot of draft picks. They ended up drafting 11 players overall. So you should be able to get, all your needs filled when you have that many draft picks, and they did. Marshawn Lloyd late in the 3rd round is a guy I love, and you got plenty of running backs. Remember, you signed Josh Jacobs. You still got AJ Dillon, so you don't need them, but you're a team that likes to run the football, getting big, talented running backs. This is a guy I really, really like in Marshawn Lloyd. This is a stud. By the way, watch some Tulane film if you haven't already. Tulane won, I think they called it like the AAU or it's the former, I think it's the American Conference. But anyway, Tulane was ranked. A lot of it was Pratt, and I love the fact that you take a quarterback late with some ability and talent, and don't let them hit free agency. Here's the drill. If you are a late 7th round pick like Pratt, you really don't want to be drafted, because you want to find the team that you can sign with, that you have the best chance of making the team. And by the way, it's different now, because free agents now, a lot of these free agents can make more money than players that get drafted in round 6 or 7, because those salary spots are slotted. You can pick and choose where you want to go. So it's probably better if Pratt went undrafted, because you could pick and choose where he went. It's really a good move for Green Bay, because you get a young, talented kid that goes to a nice spot. So yeah, I really like these picks late. They're smart, taking fast into a 10. Yeah. We'll talk about this with the Jets. Well, I haven't done over the Jets yet, but we know for a fact that the Jets have higher than a B as their grade. What I didn't like about the Packers draft, it's ticky-tacky, but, I mean, I drew a blank on his name. Jordan Morgan. Okay. Jordan Morgan's from California. He went to school in Arizona, and he's drafted by Green Bay. I had some other tackles rated higher, but everybody had a different tackle rating draft. He got injured his junior year, but came back, played some really good football, but he also played in the Pac-12. How's he going to adapt to cold weather? Not everybody can. I can honestly say there's a good chance he's never played in one game of football in his entire life under 50 degrees. Not one. Well, you're going to Wisconsin, so enjoy it. I really was expecting Green Bay to draft a corner. Now, Bullard, who's a safety at Georgia, one of my favorite players in the draft, ran really well. He could play some nickel corner, but I really thought that they would draft a corner. The Morgan pick could work out. I didn't think Love would work out. Yeah, I agree, Perry. And by the way, I don't hate the Morgan pick. You need a starter at left tackle. He was adamant he wanted to play left tackle, not right tackle. He was on a few guys that came out and said, look, I'm a left tackle, not a right tackle. And a lot of people had a first-round grade on him. There was other guys. I was positive Tyler Guyton. I was positive because Tyler Guyton came up there on a visit and they gushed all over him, but it turns out it was just kind of fake. If Tyler Guyton ends up being a better tackle than Jordan Morgan, we can complain. But he's going to be your starter at left tackle day one. So I really thought that they would get a corner in this draft. And this is a draft I really like. You got lots of draft picks. You got lots of really good value out of this draft. It's funny because like a B is an 83 through an 86. I would give this like an 86. It's not quite a B plus, but I really, really liked this draft, and I really thought they got some really good players. So this is a very good draft. I just didn't give it a B plus. Next up, Houston Texans. Keep in mind they got Diggs and Mixon with some draft picks, and they also got an extra 2025 second from the Minnesota Vikings. Kalen Bullock is a guy I started watching more and more of. At the combine, he ran, I think it was 4.46, 4.47, 6'2", 190, played free safety. He was a ball hawk in coverage, but not really a physical tackler. It's kind of funny because they drafted Jalen Petrie last year, and then he played out of this world. They're both free safeties, but Petrie, I think, would be better to replace Jimmy Ward. Now, Jimmy Ward's going to be 33, and he's on the downward slide of his career, so I think he's kind of a replacement because you draft him in round 3. You don't need to play him. There are some people I kept on hearing that said Bullock's better at corner. That's not impossible, and it wouldn't surprise me, but you did draft Lassiter in round 2. By the way, Lassiter, if he runs maybe a half of 100th of a second more, he ran, I think it was 4.63 at what killed him is he ran a 4.63 at the combine, and at pro day, I think he ran a 4.69. Watch him on film, not deep speed guy. It's not really going to affect him in playing for the Houston Texans. Big physical guy, probably a day one starter. Opposite, oh God, the kid out of LSU, who I love this guy, but they should took Sauce Gardner, but Derek Stingley Jr. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot that guy. Probably going to be opposite. Just really, 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 really good draft pick. Houston's going all in this year. Well, they gave up a first round pick so they can get a second. It doesn't seem like they're going all in, but I really like what they did. The thing is I don't like about Diggs is that he's set to be a free agent after the season. So if you don't keep him after this year, you gave up basically a second round pick for him. I also was a little surprised that they didn't draft a defensive tackle. Dan and Keaton, did any of you like the undrafted free agents or teams? I haven't had a chance to go over the undrafted free agents, Perry, and the reason why is because I didn't want to look at anything ESPN, the NFL Network, or anything else. I just wanted to give you my raw opinion. So I've been ignoring social media until after this video, and then I'm going to go through and kind of listen to Keaton's video, go back and listen to some draft experts or people I really like, and listen to hear what they have to say. And also I want to read your comments. If you put some comments in the video below, I want to hear what you guys have to say, because you may have missed something. By the way, if you're a Lions fan, you'll be like, you gave the Lions a B-, how dare you? I'm not. That's not going to change my opinion. But if you say, hey, Dan, A, B, C, and D, I may go back and change some things. I agree there. I 100% agree. Perry says the AFC South is Houston's to lose this year. He's 100% correct. And I really, really like this. So you get Laster, possible day one starter. Kalen Bullock's a guy I've been falling in love with. I believe the plan is eventually to move Petrie over to strong safety, who has free safety ability. And then Bullock will take over at free safety, because you're in a division with some really good quarterbacks, and teams are going to be throwing the ball around. Get guys that make lots of picks, and that's what you got with Kalen Bullock. So I really like this draft. If Diggs does leave after this year, then, okay, well, you wasted a second-round pick. Keep in mind, they get 2 second-round picks next year. They can get very creative in next year's draft. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Let's just say they pick 24. If they use they use the 2 second-round picks to try to move up and get a star next year. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Another team I gave a B+ a B to is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I really liked what they did. This is kind of the big reason that I gave them a B grade, is because they got the Minnesota Vikings 3rd and 4th round picks. Remember, the Vikings gave up their second. So what do the Minnesota Vikings have in next year's draft? They have a 1, and then they have a 5. This is a great move. And you know what, Perry? We talked about this earlier. They get Brian Thomas Jr. So here you go. You get a 3rd and 4th round pick. Then you turn around and you get Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, how great is that? So, I mean, I just absolutely love that you trade down. You get a 3rd and a 4th next year. And then you get Brian Thomas Jr., who Perry has been adamant. Perry's been saying this for months, that Brian Thomas Jr. might be the best receiver in the draft. And if he is, you still get some extra draft picks. By the way, what they did is they got a lot of front 7 help. They got Mason Smith and Jordan Jefferson out of both our defensive linemen out of LSU. Really, really like that. And they also got some corners later in the draft. They also got some special teams. I like it when teams draft special teams guys, so they get a starting punt returner, kick returner. He was listed as a quote unquote running back at Texas. He's really a return guy. Okay. And then you get your starting kicker. So you got special teams. Your biggest need was your front 7, maybe corner. And that's why they did draft some corners, but I really thought that they should have got better guys for day one. I'll go into that detail here in a little bit, but this is a great trade for them, and he will be a star. I hope takes Trevor Lawrence take a real step forward. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, seriously, if he lives up to that potential, this could be a great draft for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And yeah, I agree. You get a good kicker, you get a good return guy, you get extra draft capital for next year. Here's the problem, though. None of these guys, Mason Smith's a guy that's talented, but he's raw. Jordan Jefferson's a good guy, but I don't think any, and by the way, they drafted 2 corners. None of these guys are going to be ready day one. And you had a defense that, what'd you do right after the season was over? You fired your defensive coordinator. Well, you gave nobody who's going to really help them out this year. That's what I didn't like about the draft. And you didn't draft the safety. Now, keep in mind, they got one of my draft crushes last year. He's right now slated as the starting drew a blank on his name. Antonio Johnson was one of my draft crushes last year. And I thought there was a chance he goes late in the 1st round. He went in the 5th round. And I'd like, listen, Jacksonville may have a steal on this guy. He may end up starting. Right now, he's slated as starting strong safety, 5th round pick. But I really thought that Jacksonville would draft more safeties. I really did. Does this draft put the Jags over the hump for the division? Colts and Texans improving from last year. Denver Gator, that's a phenomenal question. And it really just depends on how good Brian Thomas Jr. is. If you agree with Perry and you think he's the best receiver in this draft, if this is a 1,000-yard receiver, if this is a Pro Bowl caliber receiver, the answer is yes. If you get some help from the defense, but I mean, you look at what you got. You got Evan Ingram. You got Christian Kirk. Gabe Davis, who I think will be solid, not great. If Brian Thomas Jr. ends up being wide receiver number 1, then yes. But you drafted a bunch of guys that are developmental in defense. That's why to be honest with you, this is really more of a B- C+ draft, but you get a 3rd and a 4th next year from Minnesota, which is just genius. Smith is risk reward types. He was worth the risk at the spot that they took him. Are you talking about you're talking about Mason Smith, who's the if he's the so here's the deal. Christian Kirk is their number 1 wide receiver. Well, actually, okay. Evan Ingram is a tight end in name only, but he almost set the NFL record for most receptions in a season. I think last year he had 109. He'll probably come close to 100 receptions this year. Christian Kirk was their number 1 receiver. Calvin Ridley was off and on. There was times he looked like he was like a number 1 also. There's times he looked like he was number 3. Tennessee, I think, gave him too much money, but that's neither here nor there. Brian Thomas Jr., even if he just plays at number 2, if Christian Kirk improves, remember when he went down the last couple weeks of the season, the Jacksonville offense really kind of stalled, even though Evan Ingram was used a lot more. You got a chance if Brian Thomas Jr. is as good as you say he is. Jacksonville should win about 10 games, but you also still need some help on the defensive side of the ball. Denver Gator, it's between Houston and Jacksonville for the South. That's how I feel, but Indianapolis is a big question mark because nobody knows what you're going to do with Anthony Richardson. I mean, Anthony Richardson's a massive unknown, but they did a really good job in the draft, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. Yeah, Mason Smith, they should make it. So that's a thing, though. This is a raw dude, but I think that the sooner, if they can figure a way to get his talent unlocked immediately, you put him with Josh Allen and Travion Walker, and you get that working fast. This front 7 could be really, really good. Jacksonville's a sneaky team because they have a new defensive coordinator. I don't know really what to expect, but here's the thing. This makes, by the way, don't be surprised if they use one of these picks and make a midseason trade. There is a chance that they can make a midseason trade. Or they can use these picks and draft somebody next year. There's so many things Jacksonville can do. Really like this draft. Yeah, and by the way, nobody knows. Nobody knows because he is injured. Big question mark. Next team I gave a B to was the Los Angeles Rams. And by the way, the Rams overpaid the Carolina Panthers here to get the Florida State duo. But I love the fact that you get Florida State teammates. I think this was just genius by the Rams, is that you get 2 guys that were part of one of the best defenses in all of college football that work together, and you bring them together on the same team. And also like that you didn't get a defensive tackle in the first round and call him an Aaron Donald replacement. You wait till the second round and you get a guy that should have gone in the first round. Kumrai Kitchens is the 3rd round receiver out of the University of Miami. He had 11 interceptions. Cameron Kitchens, I'm sorry. He had 11 interceptions last 2 years at the University of Miami. and stuffs to run. And to be honest, if you just watch him on film, he looks like a first round pick. He's like 5'10", 5'11", 210, ran a 4.65. You get him at the end of the third round, ignore the 4.65. He plays faster. There's a chance that this is a guy in a couple of years from now we're talking as a top 5 safety. There is a chance that he's not as that the athleticism doesn't translate to the NFL. And I've seen this a lot where you get guys, hey, they're great college guys. They don't have the athleticism to play in the pros. Well, you get somebody at the end of the third round, I don't worry about it. By the way, yeah, Perry, you're 100% correct. I love it because you need an edge rusher, you need a defensive tackle, and you get teammates. This was just genius. But yeah, you're right. And by the way, if you're not aware, they gave up a 2025 second round draft pick to Carolina to trade up. The thing is, though, Carolina sacrificed that. No. I have to go back and check because they ended up trading up to get Jonathan Brooks, which I was like, what the hell are you doing? But yeah, it's God, it was a lot. And both of them had massive upside. But Blake Corum in round 3 is a guy that he'll spell. Crap. I just drew a blank. Kyron Williams, who was, by the way, Kyron Williams was a former 4th round pick. So you're going to get a guy who's going to spell Corum, going to spell Kyron Williams, who, by the way, played like Christian McCaffrey, except like diet Christian McCaffrey, but like played really well. You get a guy that can spell him, and Blake Corum really, really like that pick. And by the way, if Kyron Williams goes down, Corum can do everything Williams can do, and might be a guy. If you're in a fantasy football league and you want somebody to take in late rounds, take Blake Corum. I thought the Rams would have one O-line or offensive weapons for Stafford. Well, they could have got a tight end because it's unknown if Higbee's going to be able to return because he got injured against the Lions. They're stacked at receiver. They helped with Blake Corum's really going to help this team quite a bit. It may not sound like it, but he really is. I really like what this team did. I'll be honest with you. I really almost gave this a B+. Picking Rams to win the division. It's hard to argue. I mean, let's seriously. Okay, let's throw away Seattle and Arizona. Let's just throw those away. San Francisco Rams. Okay. Who has a better quarterback? It's Rams. Who has better receivers? It's the Rams. All right. You're losing Aaron Donald. I get it. But, I mean, 49ers lost some guys. 49ers have some age. This was a really good draft. It's just you gave up a 2025 second. The NFC, listen, here's the deal. Like the NFC is kind of a crapshoot because I'm looking. I think the toughest division, to be perfectly honest with you, is the NFC North. All right, you got the Lions there. Green Bay got better, and I mean Josh Jacobs now. Wow. Aaron Jones goes to the Vikings. That's going to be fun. But yeah, you got something that's really brutal in the NFC North. The NFC East is still tough. I'll be honest. I mean, the South, I really don't know what to expect. But, I mean, the NFC is going to be fun this year. I think Kyle Shanahan's a bit better coach over McVay. I think just the opposite, but I really can't sit here and call – I'm not calling Shanahan a bad coach. It was funny, me and Keys thinks Kyle Shanahan's a top 5 coach. I don't think so. I would take McVay over Shanahan, but there's a lot of people that agree with you. So New England Patriots also gave a B. Here's what you needed in this draft. You needed a quarterback, you needed a left tackle, and you got a receiver. You know what you got? You perfect 3 for 3. Perfect 3 for 3 if you're the New England Patriots. Jalen Polk, I thought was a reach, but Javon Baker in round 4 is, yeah, they both are very good. Yeah. Javon Baker is really, 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 really good. Rams used to F them picks kind of because they had 1 and 2, didn't know what to do at the second. yeah. So the Rams are not used to drafting. I wasn't sure what they were going to do in this draft, but I do like the trade, but man, God, it's a lot. It is a lot. Fisk, I think Fisk is going to work out though. By the way, the last 2 picks in the draft, they drafted Joe Milton, the quarterback with the massive arm. It's kind of funny because you have Drake May, who had this powerful arm. Well, they drafted the quarterback whose arm's actually stronger. And it's kind of funny because if I'm Joe Milton, I kind of go in here and I say, you know what? I can do everything they can do. Give me a chance. But I've said this many times. I think Joe Milton's better suited to be an NFL tight end than quarterback. But if he's dead set on wanting to play quarterback, show something, because bottom line, there's not too many quarterbacks that have the athletic talent and arm strength of Drake May. Joe Milton is one of them, but I've never seen Joe Milton play a game where I'm scared of him throwing the ball. I'm just like, hey, you can throw the ball deep. Great. Hey, go back and throw the ball 50 times a game. Can you win games for us? No. I do think that he is better suited to play tight end. I think 3 to 5 years from now, he's going to make the switch to tight end. Jaheim Bell is a tight end in name only. This is a guy, he's like 6'1", 6'2", 240, ran like a 4.63, 4.64. This is a guy, if he gets with the right team and right creative coaching staff, I don't know if they have that in New England. This is a guy who's really just a big slot receiver. If he makes the team, watch out. And here's the thing with Milton. Is he going to get a chance? Because if he gets a chance, you never know. But I still think he's an NFL tight end. I really do. 3 to 5 years from now, he'll be a tight end. The Pats had a solid draft. Polk. I think Polk was a reach, but he's a big dude with size and ability. Easily Pat's best draft in a while. Like the Polk pick up good hands and speedster. I like what Elliott Wolf and Mayo are doing. Polk ran a 4.5 something. I like his size. I don't hate Polk. I thought it was a reach. I'll be honest with you. I almost think Javon Baker is the better one, but Baker in the 4th is a really, really good pick. Really, really good pick. What I didn't like is that what they did is they drafted in the top of the 3rd round Caden Wallace. Now, he played left tackle at Penn State. I think he's better suited to play right tackle in the NFL, but there is a chance that he's going to end up being the starter. Now, keep in mind they signed former Steelers tackle in free agency, but neither one of these guys are really the answer at left tackle unless Wallace is a guy who did play left tackle at Penn State, unless you're thinking he can be the guy. It's not the best judge, but ESPN has him as the backup right tackle for right now. If he's not a candidate to start at left tackle, I really don't like it, because there was guys that you could have drafted at the top of round 2, and then you could have got your receiver in round 3, because there were a lot of guys I like better than Polk, but by the way, Javon Baker I almost like better than Polk. I like Polk better than Worthy. That's a tough one. I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. I really hated the Xavier Worthy pick. We got Milton because Zappy is most likely out the door, and Milton will be 3rd string. That actually makes a lot of sense. The Pats are rebuilding this draft. I agree completely. I really do, because bottom line, this draft is all about Drake May. And by the way, I liked May better than Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels. And here's the deal. It's all about Drake May. If Drake May is good, this is a good draft. If he's bad, it's a bad draft. But there are some really good players. There are some really good players in this draft. And by the way, this is a guy, don't sleep on this guy. It's kind of funny. I'm talking about a guy at the end of the 7th round. This is a guy that if he makes a team and they can find a way to make it fit, like this is how you, listen, when you find guys late in the draft, Troy Brown, Julian Edelman, Trent Brown, and they become quality starters, that's how you win games. Next team I gave a B to is the New York Giants. And out of all the teams in the NFL, I think Brian Daboll is on hot seat more than anybody. I think the Giants actually, who is Patriot? That's a great question. I actually don't know. I should know this. I remember reading about it, but I forgot. I'm not reading about it, and I completely forgot. He's got his hands full because he's got a bunch of young talent. I remember reading about him, and I completely forgot. Let's find out real fast. There's like 9 ads covering what I'm trying to read here. I can't even get to the. Jesus Christ, there's so many ads at this site that I can't even. Hold on here. God, can I see if I can click on it before the ads pop up? God, this the page I'm going to, I'm trying to. There's like the page I'm going to try to look up the depth charts has ads literally covering up the whole screen, so I can't. Okay. Alex Van Pelt. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, Alex Van Pelt. Thanks, Keaton. I like Alex Van Pelt. It was kind of funny. They asked Alex Van Pelt played quarterback. He was University of Pittsburgh quarterback, and I think he's 7th round draft pick. Bounced around the NFL's backup, and I think it was a question about Will Smith in the movie Ali, where he portrayed Muhammad Ali. I never saw it, but they're like, hey, what do you think about Will Smith putting on 30 pounds to play Ali? He goes, I do it every offseason. And anyway, I like Alex Van Pelt. I think Daboll's on the hot seat because the GM didn't give him the right talent. Injury and Jones being crap does help. Yeah, I agree with all of this, but you got to win this year. And by the way, when you talk about winning this year, they gave this is a really good draft. All 6 of these players are going to make the team, and all 6 are going to help you this year. I think Daboll. Okay, yeah, I already read that. Theo Johnson. A lot of you guys were telling me about him. We're like, did you see he ran a 4.5? It was like 4.58, 4.59. He's 6'6", 260. Penn State had a bad offense in college football, but Theo Johnson's a guy that, like, if they figure out how to put that size-speed combo together, this is a guy that's got all the physical tools. You get him in the 4th round. He had a little more production. You could easily got him in the 2nd. This is a great fit. Newman's a day 1 starter at safety. Xavier McKinney signed a big free agent contract with the Packers. They still need help in secondary, but this was a really, really good pick. Giants are going to figure out who the quarterback is next year to Jones. I agree with you, Keaton. I've never been sold on Daniel Jones. A couple of years ago, I had somebody just call me a Daniel Jones hater. And it's like, I'm not a hater. I'm just not convinced he's the guy. When your best season's throwing for over 3,000 yards, I need to see more. And then this last year he got hurt, but I don't think he's it. But here's the deal. You gave him some weapons. You gave him Malik Neighbors. A lot of people say he's wide receiver number 1. Theo Johnson's workout warrior. Can you put it all together? He's going to get a chance to play this year. You drafted a running back in the 5th round, Tyron Tracy, and not too many of you probably know about him. He played receiver at Iowa, transferred to Purdue, switched over to running back, but he can do it all. Special teams guy, he's going to help out quite a bit. There's not a lot of drafts that I say every single player is going to make the team and every single player is going to help out. This is one of them. And if Neighbors is a star, that probably saves everybody. And a lot of people think that he is. And by the way, I'm including a B with Brian Burns. They traded the second round pick for Brian Burns. Brian Burns is going to be opposite Thibodeau, all the talent in the world rushing the quarterback. You also have Dexter Lawrence there. So this is a really, really sneaky good draft by the Giants. I really thought that they were going to get another receiver, not just one, but the former Tyrone Tracy is a former receiver, but he's going to play running back. He's going to help out is like a check down guy. I really thought that they were going to get a defensive lineman. They didn't. Bottom line, this was almost a B plus. I came very close. So B is between 83 and 86. This is like an 86. The Giants have to make the playoffs this year. Daniel Jones has to live up to that contract. And Keaton, I agree. I don't think he's the guy. I don't think he's the guy. I actually think next year the Giants are probably going to have a new head coach, and there'll probably be their coaching staff and general manager are probably looking at the draft and going, "Hey, who's going to be our quarterback?" That's what I predict will happen. But here's the deal: Daniel Jones, he's got a wide receiver number one, potential tight end, and somebody who's going to a 6th round pick was it 5th or 6th round pick? I can't remember now. A 5th round pick, 31st pick in the 5th round who's going to help. So. I gave the Washington Commanders a B as well. They're my final B grade. This was kind of a weird draft for me, but I really liked it. Johnny Newton, it's listed as Jazar Newton. A lot of you guys start calling him Johnny Newton, but how did he last in the 2nd round? I thought he could. I actually thought Miami could draft him at 21. This is a guy had no business going in round 2. No business going in round 2. So what it is that they drafted a 3rd round pick out of TCU and Brandon Coleman. Now here's a drill. ESPN's calling him a guard, but he played tackle and then he had to move inside because of injury. So he has inside-outside versatility. I think he's a left tackle. ESPN's calling him a guard. I actually think that he's going to be a tackle. Yes, I don't know. I've only seen this Jazar, but yeah, you guys have been calling him Johnny. Bottom line, he's not a 2nd round pick, or at least he shouldn't. This is why I think the Finns should move on from Tua. He's not worth a big contract. I've been agreeing with you. There's a Dolphins YouTuber comes on every now and then. He's been saying the same thing, like, hey, we should move on from Tua. Or there's a lot of, he calls them Tua-neers, are full all in on him. But I think Miami they couldn't because they drafted 21. 6 quarterbacks are gone. But yeah. So anyway, Coleman, I think, might be your starting left tackle. That was a major hole. By the way, they drafted Luke McCaffrey at the top of the 4th round. He ran like a 4.46. He played quarterback, moved to receiver. Massive upside. Both these guys may end up starting. Sandstill is a mid-2nd round pick. I saw some mock drafts closer to the draft that had him going in the 1st round. This guy has Pro Bowl potential written all over him. It wouldn't surprise me if 5 years from now, Sandstrill and Newton end up being Pro Bowlers. Cons, I really didn't like the fact there was no defensive end till round 7. And by the way, they drafted a safety in the 5th round, the bottom of the 5th round. Dominique Campton out of Washington. This is a guy that I really think may end up being the starter. Solid dude, could surprise you, could end up being the starter. But yeah, Perry, you're right. Coleman be a starter. So here's the drill. He played left tackle, and that's what they need. They need a left tackle bad. I was really convinced that they were going to try to move back into the first round and get a left tackle, and they never did. I think if you draft Coleman, you play him at guard. Well, you got plenty of guards. You don't have a left tackle. I don't know what they're going to do, but look, you're drafting a quarterback number 2 overall in Jaden Daniels, okay? Why would you have a massive hole at left tackle of all spots? It didn't make a lot of sense. So I'm not, that was the one thing. But here's the thing. People are going to remember this draft about Jaden Daniels. But I would be surprised. I think that together these two are probably going to go to like 5 or 6 Pro Bowls combined minimum. I think both these guys are really, really good football players. And people are going to remember Jaden Daniels, but these two guys are probably going to say, look, I said this before. When it comes to quarterbacks in the draft, you never know what you're going to get. You don't know if you're going to get Josh Rosen or Josh Allen. You don't know. And you don't know what you're going to get out of Jaden Daniels. You really don't. But I really think Newton and Sandsteel, these guys are going to make a lot of Pro Bowls. These are really good players. And by the way, this Hampton kid, if he starts, this is probably a B+ draft. Washington had a good draft, better than I thought it would have been if Daniels a bust. And exactly, everybody's going to remember Jaden Daniels, but there's a lot of really good players that Washington drafted. That even if Jaden Daniels doesn't pan out, this could still be a really, really good draft. All right. If you remember, I gave out only 3 B+, but I gave out 6 A-. There's 3 teams I gave a B+ to. They're Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Dallas. Let's dive into that here. The Buffalo Bills are the first one. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, Cedric Van Pran, 6th pick in the 5th round. He's your day 1 starter at guard, and this is a really, really good football player. He played guard and center. I really thought that he would go in either in the 2nd or 3rd round, and he would start either guard or center. You get him in top of the 5th. Day 1 starter. You trade out of round 1. You trade with Kansas City. Then you go ahead and you flip-flop with Carolina. What's interesting is that you went from 32 to 33, but both Carolina and Buffalo still took receivers. So it's kind of interesting. Keep in mind, if Xavier Legette's a lot better than Keon Coleman, you can look at this and say it's a bad move. If Keon Coleman ends up better than Xavier Legette, then this is a phenomenal move. But here's the deal. You trade twice to get out of round 1. Then you get 3 day 1 starters. And none of them are first-round picks. That is genius. By the way, do you know the story behind Ray Davis, the University of Kentucky running back? I don't want to go into it completely. I think like both his parents died when he was like in junior high school. They had a family that was taking care of him. Then he had a scholarship to play football on the other side of the country. He had to get permit. He had a what do you call it when you apply to be an adult when you're 14 or 15? Anyway, go back, check the story out. It's one of the best stories you'll ever hear. Then he ends up getting a college football scholarship, transfers to Kentucky, 21 touchdowns last year in the SEC. I don't know if Denver Gators there, but last year, 26 carries, 280 yards, and 4 touchdowns against the University of Florida. You get this guy late in the 4th round, and bottom line, a lot of people thought he could have gone in the 2nd or 3rd round. This is a guy that is probably not going to be the starter, but he has starter ability. Yeah, it's one of the greatest stories. And yeah, I mean, this is a guy you get in the bottom of the 4th round. I'm not high on the Keon wide receiver pick. I agree completely, Perry. I personally liked Xavier Legette a lot more than I liked Keon Coleman. But if Keon Coleman's better than Xavier Legette, this is an A draft instead. But this is a draft that the Bills traded out of round 1 and got multiple starters. This was just absolutely genius. I am very impressed. Cole Bishop, you get him in the bottom of the 2nd round, safety out of Utah. He's going to be a day 1 starter. Dwayne Carter, not going to start as a defensive tackle, but he's going to contribute. This is such a great draft. The only thing I really didn't like about this is that I liked Xavier Legette a lot more than I liked Keon Coleman. Why did you stop after just Keon Coleman? Is that it? And I agree, Kerry, I 100% agree. Another thing is I really expected them to draft a corner. But this was a really great draft. There's going to be multiple starters coming out of this draft. This is a great draft out of Buffalo Bills. This is a draft grade that I don't think anybody else has. This might be my favorite draft, the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think I'm the only person that gave the Cincinnati Bengals a B+. I really love this draft, and I'll tell you why. Marius Mims is 6'8", 340. They had some ESPN reporter, and I forget who it was. It was a female. And she looked like she was like an 8-year-old girl next to Marius Mims. This is the biggest. Yeah, Keon is a huge red zone target. This is one to. By the way, if he runs like a 4.55 instead of a 4.65, he probably goes top 20. Here's the deal, though. Do you remember N'Keal Harry? He was a 1st-round pick by the Patriots. I think he was 22nd pick in the draft. And he did nothing. I love the same pick, and I'm worried if he's the same type of guy. So, Amarius Mims, 6'8", 340. This is going to be the first time when he walks into that Bengals offensive line room. It's the first time in his life he's going to be the smallest dude, and it's not one dude that's bigger than him. It's Trent Brown and Orlando Brown Jr. The reason why I love this draft pick so much is that because it's going to become very obvious that within a practice or two that Amarius Mims is light years lighter on his feet than either Orlando Brown Jr. or Trent Brown. Both of these guys have made about $100 million in the NFL. Both these guys signed massive contracts. The Bengals are still paying Orlando Brown a massive contract. Trent Brown's on a 1-year deal. Both of these guys, if they seriously, I'd love to hear like the first training camp, because I guarantee you Amarius Mims moves much better than both these guys. If both these guys take Mims under their wing and say, hey, listen, since you're a smaller guy at 6'8", 340, and this is how you move, these are some of the tricks of the trade. 5 years from now, if Mims stays healthy, he's going to be the best tackle in football. There is no chance there's almost no possibility he's not the best tackle in football. All he has to do is stay healthy. He's that athletically gifted, and he goes to the right place. To be fair, Harry, yeah, yeah, exactly. And the one thing about Coleman is that he's going to get passes thrown his way. Like, he's going to get a lot of targets. He's a guy that I'm really curious how it works out. Mims is a big risk. Mims is a Bengals pick. The injuries history is scary. Mims stays healthy, he will be a top 10. I think he'll be, if he stays healthy, there's no reason he's not the best left tackle in football. There's none. Guys that are 6'8", 340, that footwork like a tight end, there's no excuse. And he goes to the absolute perfect place, because if Orlando Brown and Trent Brown Jr. take him under his wing, they take the big guy under his wing, this is the best place that he could go. It really is. you don't know what's going to happen as far as injuries. But here's a drill. Amarius Mims and Jermaine Burton, who was drafted in the first and the third round, you have an offensive-minded head coach. Take players that have massive superstar potential. On the defensive side of the ball, take guys that are solid doubles. All right. They drafted in the second round, they drafted Chris Jenkins, defensive tackle out of Michigan. At the bottom of the third round, McKinney Jackson, the defensive tackle out of Texas A&M. I love both of these guys. McKinney Jackson's a fire hydrant. He's 6 foot. He's 330. Really, really underrated athletically. And then you get Chris Jenkins, who helped you, well, not him, but he helped Michigan win a national championship. Just everything you want out of defensive tackle. Lou Amaruno guys. That's what you got. You got 2 stud defensive tackles, solid, perfect contributors. And then you're an offensive-minded head coach. Jermaine Burton had all the tools to be a first-round talent, but it's really rare that you hear an Alabama player being immature, having problems with maturity. It's not something you usually hear from an Alabama player. That's the type of guy he is. Insane talent, though. And by the way, you have a 1-year deal with T. Higgins. Jermaine Bertram doesn't work out. You can get rid of him. And then, hey, look, Higgins, how about we work a deal out? If it does work out, you can move on from Higgins. You may be able to trade him mid-season. This is kind of like the best case scenario. Talking about left tackle, I think Sewell will be starting left tackle next year if you don't pay that kind of money to be a right tackle. Well, that's been kind of a trend because the Chiefs gave Jawan Taylor almost $25 million a year. The Eagles gave Lane Johnson a 3-year, $75 million deal. Denver gave, I think it was McGinsley, like a 4-year, $88 million deal, $89 million or something crazy like that. That's what right tackles are being paid for. And what it is that Akeez sent something to me a while back because more teams are using shotgun sets. You don't have a blind side anymore, so it doesn't matter which tackle as long as one of them's a stud. But I have no idea what Detroit's going to do. But to be honest with you, when they drafted the kid out of British Columbia, that's a right tackle. So if you move Sewell over to the left side and he's your starting right tackle, if he's as good as LDT was and he's a right tackle, then you made a really good move. Yeah, I agree completely. And by the way, if Higgins is a free agent and Burton ends up panning out, he's got all the tools. Like it's just, I love when teams go boomer bust, solid player, boomer bust, solid player, and the boomer bust guy is, if you're a defensive coach, draft a boomer bust guy as a defensive guy. If you're an offensive guy like the Bengals have as their head coach, draft a boomer bust as the offensive guy, because if you can get that potential, you got something special. I think Lecker won't be a lineman's contract is done next year. It's possible. Maybe they're thinking that he could be the kid from British Columbia is going to be left tackle next year or 2 years. Gave up a third for next year for him, so he better be a good player. I don't think they will either, and that's why you draft Bertram. Higgins ends up in New England or Washington. I could see that. By the way, he could be gone mid-season, and a lot of it has to do if Burton pans out. If Burton pans out, there's a chance he has first-round talent all over him. So I really love this pick. I love this draft. Eric All, tight end out of Iowa, had some injury issues. By the way, McLaughlin, he's the tight end out of Arizona. Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network had a 2nd-round grade on him. They got him in the 6th round. So they had a problem at tight end. They drafted 2 of them with massive upside, and they got him in the 4th and the 6th round. Excellent fits. You draft a guy in the third round, has first round ability, Mims, all the talent in the world. Does he stay healthy? Does he not stay healthy? The Bengals might have my favorite draft. I love this draft. They had problems in the interior offensive line, and they didn't draft one until the middle of the 7th round. Matt Lee, University of Miami. So I think they will. I think they will. But this might be my favorite pick. This might be my favorite draft, the Bengals. Next is the Dallas Cowboys, and I really, really like this draft. So first thing you do is you make a move with the Denver Broncos, or I'm sorry, the Detroit Lions. You go down from 24 to 29. You didn't have a third-round pick. When everything's said and done, you started a day without a third-round pick. Then you end up getting 2 of them. So great job by the Dallas Cowboys here. And then you still get Tyler Guyton, by the way. You get Tyler Guyton at 29. I went through a lot of mock drafts. There was all sorts of talk that Tyler Guyton was going to go much higher. I kept on hearing that he could go as high as 10 to the Jets. Dallas trades down and still gets Tyler Guyton. And by the way, Jerry Jones was adamant. There was a lot of talk from Dallas that they love Tyler Guyton. You get him. Cooper Beebe at 73 is one of my favorite picks. You make a trade with the Detroit Lions and you get 2 day one starters on the offensive line. That's amazing. So you bring in the new defensive coordinator, bring in 2 guys in your front 7 are perfect fits for what he does. So you had some you're getting Diggs back. Diggs is a guy that Zimmer can work with. You have your secondary intact. Then you go ahead and you bring in a couple of guys on your front 7 that Mike Zimmer loves. Cowboys bringing back Zeke, Super Bowl baby, all in LMF. Yeah, I know. So they needed to draft a running back. It was funny. They said this on the NFL Network. Like, what do you need if Ezekiel Elliott re-signs with the Cowboys? And Daniel Jeremiah said, well, you need a DeLorean, and you got to figure out how to go back in time, because here's the deal. Ezekiel Elliott's the answer 5 years ago. He's not the answer now. The only thing preventing this draft from really being an A is that they didn't have a running back, and they really needed one. And here's the drill. There were several running backs that you could have drafted in this draft that would start. I fully expect Dallas to do something more than just count on Ezekiel Elliott, but you're right. Both these offensive line moves were just genius. Yeah, I agree completely. And by the way, yeah, the one thing I will say is that they're smart, that they realized a year late that he was the better running back between him and Tony Pollard. So I'm so glad we got him, but Dallas should have grabbed Estimine. Yeah, they should have. They should have grabbed. You could have gotten, I could go through the list. They could have gotten Brandon Lloyd at the bottom of the 4th. Blake Corum would have been another guy. They could have got so many different running backs. Estimine, yeah, that would have been perfect. Yeah. By the way, these late round picks that they got 4 late round picks. All 4 of them. If any one of these bottom 4 picks pan out, this is a great draft. But you get 2 absolute studs on the offensive line. You get 2 guys that are Mike Zimmer type of dudes. And by the way, Jerry Jones does I like his draft. This is a really good. The only gripe I got is that one thing about college football, the NFL, the one position that translates easier than any other position is running back, because it's the same. In the NFL, corner, receiver, quarterback, offensive line, everything's different. Running back's not. Running back translates the easiest. They should have got at least one. And there were several they could have chose from. I really I went back and forth with my grades going from B to B plus. We haven't gone over the Jets yet, but yes. By the way, the Jets, great job, bottom of the 4th round. bottom of the fourth round. He would be a starter. So yeah, he does. He does. Look, you trade down and you turn that pick into another starter. That's just genius. And by the way, their final 4 picks, if any of them ends up making the team, there's some good chances that I liked all 4 of these guys. I won't go into detail. I'm on 3 hours already, so I won't go into any detail. But there's a chance this is one of the best drafts in Cowboys history. And I know that's saying a lot, but I believe that. All right. I gave 6 teams an A-. I didn't give anybody a winning grade. And there are definitions. A- is 90 to 92. And I won't go into detail, but certain drafts I like better than others. But these 6 teams I thought really, really, really did well. I was really impressed by the way these teams drafted. I gave all of them an A-, but I didn't give anybody a really winning grade here. So this is what I got here. Let's start with Arizona. I talked about this earlier, but they made a trade with Atlanta. Atlanta traded up and they drafted Rook Aurora. The trade ends up getting Max Melton, and then they use other trade capital to draft Trey Benson in the 3rd round. Both these guys I had rated higher. In bottom line, they had 7. They translated that to 8. All 8 of their picks in the first 4 rounds are all going to make the team. All of them are going to contribute. And by the way, the last 4 picks in the last rounds, I like all 4 of these guys. There's not anything I don't dislike about this draft. Look, Marvin Harrison Jr., people are talking about him being a generational talent. You get him at receiver. Darius Robinson, the guy I absolutely loved. He helps your edge rush. Max Melton's a guy I fell in love with. Trey Benson, probably my number 1 running back, is Jonathan Brooks. He was injured off an ACL tail. Benson goes to the perfect spot, too. Oh, God, what's his name? Drawing a blank here. Give me a second. James Conner. James Conner is the same type of dude, except bigger, much slower. Trey Benson doesn't have to be the guy, but he's going to help out. Here's dude's 220, ran a 4.39. This is just a great spot. Then you get 2 guys from Illinois, big, physical, tough guys, going to help running the ball. You're the former defensive backs coach. What do? Late in the 3rd round, you get a corner. Top of the 4th round, you get a safety. This is just a really great draft. Harrison should be a star. Robinson, a solid starter. Here's the deal. Max Melton, I think, may contribute more than Robinson day 1. Melton's going to be a really, really good player. Trey Benson has all the tools to be a Pro Bowl running back. Then you draft a 270-pound blocking tight end and a big physical. They're calling him a tackle. I think he's better suited to play guard. This was a great draft. Here's the only thing I don't like about it is you won 4 games year 1. Okay. Kyler Murray's being given a lot of money. All you've heard about is how good Marvin Harrison's going to be someday. So, I mean, the hype train's pretty high on him. Look at the division that you're in. San Francisco went to a Super Bowl. The Rams are a playoff contender. Can you go 8-9 and keep your job? I don't know. I'm not joking. I mean, I really have no idea. But bottom line, if you don't have a winning record, there's a good chance a lot of people get fired and you're banking on a lot of youth. But this was a great draft. Johnny Wilson, I'm going to talk about that. Baltimore Ravens just always draft well. This is just great. By the way, in the 4th round, they got 2 of my favorite players. Devontae Walker, a lot of people thought he had a 2nd-round grade on him. A matter of fact, I would have been happier if the Chiefs would have drafted Sam Matea in round 1 and Walker in round 2. Walker had something crazy. It was like 30.7 yards per touchdown reception. Ravens get him in top of round 4. What a great job. TJ Tampa, I thought, could have easily gone in the 2nd round. Ravens corner. big, physical, tough. Get him in the 4th round. He might start. This guy is a perfect fit for, not for every team. I love them for the Ravens. Tough, physical, athletic, productive, out of Penn State. They drafted Odawe Alpha, who was a workout warrior, but wasn't very productive. This is just the opposite. This is a dude who's productive, big, strong, tough, but not the athlete. So I thought this was a great fit for the Baltimore Ravens here. It comes down to how invested Murray is this year. If the Cards don't play, will it be time for that? That's a good question. Here's the drill. With this draft, you have a lot of young players playing, okay? Budda Baker tried to get out last year. He didn't want to be part of a rebuild. How long of a rebuild are you allowed to have? Because we watched the Houston Texans go from picking 2nd in the draft to winning a playoff game. So is 8 wins good enough, which is double 4? I don't know. It's tough. Wiggins really should have been picked way before 30. Not a physical dude. Has to put on the NFL 20. Does not belong at 30. And he goes to the perfect team because he's going to have to tackle and he's going to have to play tough. But here's the drill. If Wiggins doesn't pan out, TJ Tampa might be a better player. So I just really like this a lot. The only thing I really didn't like is Rosengarten. I've gone through several thousand mock drafts, and I didn't see any mock draft where Rosengarten was a 2nd round pick. There's a good chance he's going to start. But I take my opinions and my draft research in pretty high regards. I've been really good with my draft grades over the years. I'm not joking when I say I've gone through several thousand mock drafts. I don't think Rosengarten was ever a 2nd round pick anywhere. But he's probably going to be a day 1 starter. We'll find out. And if he ends up being a bust, I'll have to take away the A-. But these 4th round picks are guys that could start. And Wiggins at 30, if he isn't pan out, they got another guy who can play. This was another really solid Ravens draft. Ravens take chances. Most times they are right than wrong. Yeah, I agree. They more often are. And I really like what they did. Wiggins is worth the risk. He's got all the athleticism in the world. They want to play man. And then you get, I really love this draft by the Ravens. I mean, like I said, I'm kind of being ticky-tacky with this comment, but it's the only thing I don't like is that it's it. Everything else I just loved about the Ravens draft. But, I mean, every year they seem to have a great draft. The Chargers, I also gave an A- to. First thing I liked about the Chargers draft that I'm going to say is they got Jerry Rice's kid in round 7. There was a lot of mock drafts. I saw 2 or 3. I heard something that there was an injury concern, but you're the son of the best wide receiver. I agree, man. I mean, here's the deal. They're counting on Wiggins to be the starter. And then what they want to do is that TJ Tampa is going to be a special teams guy, but he's 100% making the team. And it would not surprise me if TJ Tampa supplants Wiggins. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Brendan Rice and then Cornelius Johnson. Cornelius Johnson was very close to being Mr. Irrelevant, but you know what? He helped you win a national championship at Michigan. You know what Michigan did? They ran the ball a lot. Getting a guy who played in a run-first offense that you coached in college is such a smart move. Plus, you get Brendan Rice. Junior Colson is the guy I thought could go round 1. The Chargers have a massive hole at linebacker. Not anymore. This is your day 1 starter at middle linebacker. And this is a guy that the reason he didn't blow up the stat sheet is because Michigan played in a bunch of blowouts and he just didn't play. This was a great move. I mean, I can argue about every single one of these picks. Which one's better? Jerry Rice's kid in round 7, Junior Colson in round 3. Cam Hart is a guy that had some issues. He's a former receiver that switched over to the defensive side of the ball. And I keep saying this over and over again. I didn't say it too much in this draft series, but this is kind of a public service announcement. If you're a college wide receiver and you're 6 foot, play defense and your draft stock goes way up. If you have a 5th round grade as a wide receiver and you're 6 foot and taller, go to the defensive side of the ball and you're immediately a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick without even playing. That's what Cam Hart did. And Cam Hart had some shoulder issues, but he's physical, he's tough, he's 6'3", I think he ran like 4.49 at the combine. He's going to make the team. He's going to play. He's the work in progress, but this is a good player. Talib Still, corner out of Maryland, a guy that you're familiar with, another guy probably going to make the team. They need help at corner. Normally, if you're a team that needs help at corner and you draft a couple guys in the 5th round, not thinking too much of it, that's not true for these 2 guys. These 2 guys are going to make the team. Both these guys have a chance to start. Joe Alt fits perfectly. Harbaugh's a guy who likes to build through the trenches on both sides of the ball, and that's exactly what he did. And I just really like it. Justin Ego B, I'm not mispronouncing it, out of Alabama, has a chance to be a starter even though you got him in top of the 4th round. Johnson could be a solid 3rd or 4th wide receiver. He actually could. Same with Jerry Rice. Same with Ladd McConkey. I think Harbaugh might turn around the Chargers. If he has another draft like this, I would be hard-pressed because this was such a great draft. Joe Alt, great player. Junior Colson, great. Junior Colson's going to be a day 1 starter. Then in rounds 4 through 7, Justin Ugbe, I'm butchering that name, potential starter at defensive tackle. 2 corners that could start that you got in the 5th round. Kimin Vide, running back out of Troy, might surprise you and make the team. I like it, and he was great value. Then you draft 2 receivers. Now, probably one of those guys is probably going to make your team. One helped you win national championship. One's the son of the greatest receiver ever lived. Great draft by the Chargers. Things I didn't like. I wasn't high on McConkey. You traded up a little bit in the 2nd round to get him. I didn't think he was that good of a player. It's hearsay to some people that love him. I wasn't that high on him, just personal preference. But if he's as good as everybody thinks he is, you did a good job. I really, really like this draft. This is extremely impressive. As a Chiefs fan, for the first time in a while, I'm worried because the one thing about the Chargers, they've always been talented, but they've never been tough and they've never been well coached. And it looks like they're changing both those things. So this Chargers team, I would not be at all. I'm looking at this team right now. The AFC's loaded, but the AFC West really isn't, except for Kansas City. There's a good chance this could be a 10-win team in LA really fast. Next up is the New York Jets, and what a great draft pick. We talked about Braylon Allen earlier. You get him at the bottom of the 4th round. This was just an absolute steal. Ladd could be a good slot star or a good number 2 receiver. Ladd can catch and run good route. Exactly. And here's what you do. You got 2 guys on the outside that are big and fast. You got Joshua Palmer, 6'3", 205. And then you got Quentin Johnston, 6'4", 210. Both these guys are big, strong, fast. And you got somebody in the slot like McConkey. Then you bring in 2 other guys that can do something. So I know they had Bowers, but Ladd never did anything special in Georgia. That's why I wasn't as high on him. Is I never watched Georgia and go, oh, watch out for McConkey. He had 2 touchdowns in Didn't he have 2 touchdowns in the game against Florida State? They won by 80. Yeah, I never was super impressed. He can Herbert a lot. We'll find out. The Jets made a ton of trades in this draft, including getting a Lions 3rd round pick in 2025. Braylon Allen, they got him at the very bottom of the 4th round. He would be the starter in Dallas. Not only is he back up Breece Hall. You save unnecessary wear and tear on Breece Hall. Let's just hypothetically say you're up by 20 points and Breece Hall has, 20 carries, 90 yards. Why not put in the 245-pound rookie? Are you going to stack the box? No. I mean, by the way, Malachi Corley, they were talking about him going in the 1st round. This is a dude. He's 5'11", 215. I think he ran like a 4.37. Watch some highlights. This guy's almost impossible to tackle. He did play at Western Kentucky, but this is a guy. It would not surprise me 2 or 3 years from now he's the best receiver on the team. This is a great guy because you're at Western Kentucky. They moved them all around. If the Jets get creative with this guy, this could be just fantastic. True story, Denver Gator. I had a touchdown in that game. True story. Was it 61-0? God, I felt so bad for Florida State. I remember, me and you talked about him. Braylon Allen at the bottom of the 4th round. I'm not exaggerating. Braylon Allen would be the starting running back in Dallas. You get him the bottom of the 4th round. Look, you play against the Jets. You got Aaron Rodgers, Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson. Then you get Malachi Corley. Okay, so you got three talented receivers. Screw that. You got 3 receivers and Aaron Rodgers. You can't stack the box. Now all of a sudden you input a 245-pound running back with some speed. What do you do? By the way, Breece Hall, all the talent in the world, you know what? He gets to be fresh for the playoffs because you got this guy. I don't understand how he lasted. I know there's some questions. This is a guy. Remember, Breece Hall was probably going to be rookie of the year. Tore his ACL out for the last half of the year. Really hampered that offense. There's other things wrong, but Breece Hall goes down. Braylon Allen comes in. Oh, I mean, seriously, look. 245 pounds. He was a 17-year-old at Wisconsin his freshman year, and he looked like a grown man playing with kids. If Breece Hall goes down with injury, he may not get his starting job back. This guy has a world of potential, and you're on a team with Aaron Rodgers, who has multiple wide receivers thanks to this fantastic trade. Who knows what you may do? By the way, this 2025 3rd, you may want to add somebody mid-season. By the way, the Jets already had they have maybe the best defense in football. Now you add offensive weapons, plus you traded down one spot. I forget what you get from the Vikings. Doesn't matter. Instead of going after Bowers, which I thought they did, they go Olu Fasanu, who helped solidify your offensive line. I was expecting them to take a defensive tackle. They didn't. And I also thought maybe another offensive lineman, but Perry says, I thought Dallas or Tennessee would have taken Braylon Allen. I do too. He starts in Dallas. He starts. He really does. He's that good. Go watch some film of him if you don't know who I'm talking about. Watch some film on him. This is a guy that can be a starter, and you get him at the very bottom of the 4th round. and he backs up a running back who could be a top 10, who should be a top 10 running back barring injury. Love this draft. Love this draft. Eagles again has a Allen will make that. Yeah, he would. He would. And by the way, seriously, and by the way, let's say Dallas found a way to draft him. You still bring in Ezekiel Elliott, and Ezekiel Elliott helps the kid out in the locker room. We're down teams with both backs, long drives, open fourth quarter for Rodgers, start dropping bombs out of play. I know. Seriously, the Jets scared the shit out of me, man. Jets scare me. Okay. Drawing a complete blank on the kid's name. I'm so embarrassed. Dallas Goedert. Okay, I'm sorry. Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert was a very raw prospect when they had Zach Ertz, and they developed him. They were able to move Zach Ertz. Well, Johnny Wilson's a wide receiver at Florida State. He's going to be a. Am I frozen? Give me a heads up because I'm clear on my end. Can somebody give me a heads up? Let me know. But let me know if I'm still frozen because I should be good. If somebody can give me any indicator at all, can somebody put it in the comment here? Eagles B. All right. Hey, Nicholas, welcome to the show, man. I appreciate it, man. I'm going to assume that I'm good now, but if I am, I'll go. Okay. Thanks, brother. I was okay. All right. So let me get back here. Nicholas, man, I don't recognize you. So thanks for joining the show. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. Go and talk some Eagles. All right. Johnny Wilson at the top of the six. You have Dallas Goedert, developmental fourth round draft pick. Think of South Dakota State. You already had Zach Ertz, and he ends up becoming your starting tight end. Johnny Wilson, Florida State wide receiver, going to have to play tight end in the NFL. Great fit. A team like Kansas City, Philly, team with very creative offensive mind. That's where you wanted him to go. Should not have lasted to the sixth round. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., his dad, longtime Eagle linebacker, one of my favorite linebackers. By the way, he should have gone in the third round. Get him in the fifth. Here, it's going to be Cam Jurgens. So what they did is a couple of years ago, they drafted Cam Jurgens, who was the best center in the draft out of Nebraska. They got him in the second round, played him at guard. So he played next to Kelsey, but Cam Jurgens just going to slide into the inside. And they drafted somebody last year or the year before to play guard. I'm drawing a blank on who it is. They have Landon Dickerson. Is it Tyler Snead? Yeah, they drafted Tyler Snead out of Alabama last year in the third round. So Snead's going to just slide right in. They drafted. So what they did is that here's the thing about Philly. They don't draft players for this year. They draft players from next year. Nolan Smith, he was the 30th pick in the draft last year. He's not helping you in 2023, but you go ahead and you trade Hassan Reddick. He replaces Hassan Reddick. By the way, Nolan Smith's going to have at least 10 sacks this year. You want a dark horse for defensive player of the year? Watch out for Nolan Smith. Oh, God, Denver Gator. I love legacy picks so much. And there is no way. By the way, just ignore the fact that his dad was one of the best Eagles linebackers of all time. There's no way he should have gone in the fifth round. This was a second, third round pick. This is a great pick. This guy's going to help in special teams right away. Devin White signed a one-year deal. If he doesn't produce out, there's a replacement. You get him in the fifth round. What are you doing, Eagles? Why do other teams not follow this blueprint? What a great job. Okay. Yeah, Philly just, what a great draft. Roseman always had pick. Yeah, and that's one thing the Eagles do that other teams don't, is the Eagles say, look, we're going to draft you. You're not going to play year one, but year two, you're going to be the guy. Great move. I just think it's genius. I think it's absolutely genius. Mitchell will improve the defense, Eagles defense, tremendously. Here's the deal. I think Mitchell and DeJean are going to play so much. I don't know, man. I think it's just a kind of, okay. Off-ball linebacker has been devalued. He didn't run a good 40 time, but just watch him play. And second, third round pick all day, and just a genius move. When you draft somebody like this is a good move. Yeah, and by the way, he could he could play safety. I think both DeJean and Mitchell are going to start on the outside almost right away. And when I say start, DeJean will probably be a nickel. Lions took that fourth for a running back. Yeah. Yeah, he's in Chicago, but it doesn't matter because you picked up Saquon Barkley. So I thought DeJean would be a Holmes target. I'll be honest with you. So some guy was making a comment with Funk and me that he was a lock to be a first rounder, and I didn't think he was a lock, but I thought he had first round ability. For the Eagles to get him at 40 was a steal. He could be. I have no idea, but I think the plan is to play him at corner. The only thing I didn't like is that I don't know anything about Jalix Hunt. I heard about him. I heard there was some talk that he would go somewhere in the third or fourth round. I heard that Vic Fangio, who's the new Eagles defensive coordinator, came in and said, I absolutely want this guy. And that was the reason why they got him. So Steelers did well too. And I love Bo to the Broncos. I think Bo Nix to the Broncos had to be done, and you had to take him at 12, but I kind of dinged the Broncos for taking him at 12 because I think that I didn't have him rated that high, but Bo Nix fits like a hand in a glove. With quarterbacks, you never know. Quarterbacks is a complete crapshoot, and the Steelers are another team I gave an A- to. I think they're up next, and they are. So we'll talk about the Steelers. Steelers, I gave an A- to, and I absolutely love what the Steelers did in the draft because for years they've had a weak offensive line. For years they took. By the way, I agree completely. Nicholas coming in really strong here. Bo took. By the way, Bo Nix. Let's say for whatever reason Denver doesn't draft him. I firmly believe Bo Nix is the pick for the Raiders at 13. Absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. I 100%. And by the way, there was talk that the Raiders were trying to make a trade with Washington because they wouldn't Jaden Daniels, and they couldn't find a trade partner. So they're going to roll the dice with Gardner Minshew, who's probably not as good as Bo Nix. So even though you got a guy who started some games going into the season, is Gardner Minshew the third or fourth best quarterback in the AFC West? And I would argue fourth. For years, the Steelers' offensive line is been a weak spot. Not anymore. It's now strength, and it's a position where they are tough. They're talented. I absolutely love what they did in this draft. Troy Fatanu. They're calling him a guard, but I think he could play left tackle. Zach Frazier, day one starter at guard. They drafted Mason McCormick in the middle of the fourth round from South Dakota State. I would not be surprised at all if he ends up being a starting guard. So there's a good chance you get 3/5 of your offensive line in this draft, and you could be really, really, really good. Steelers are going back to their draft ways that brought them their most. Yeah. And by the way, all three of these guys are big, physical, tough guys. And what do you have? You have Najee Harris, 245-pound running back. Jalen Warren, 215, but a powerful runner. So you got a nice 1-2 punch at running back. So what do? You get a quarterback and throw the ball deep in Russell Wilson. Now you got a big, physical, tough offensive line. And then, by the way, your defense, you had Patrick Queen. And then you got Peyton Wilson, who has first-round ability. There's some injury questions. Bo under Brady could have been scary. You're right about that. Fields getting trained by Wilson or fighting for the starting job. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't think either. Wilson is just worried about himself and trying to do his job at Pittsburgh because he's only got a few years left. He's going to try to bring Pittsburgh a Super Bowl. He's going to try to play well because he's playing for a new contract. Justin Fields may be used for some like wildcat third round type. Like 2-point conversion type of things. But unless Russell Wilson goes down, I don't think Fields is really in play. Arthur Smith's coming in with a new offense, and he's not really going to try and groom 2 quarterbacks or 2 offenses. In my opinion, the Bears were like, we're trying to find Justin Fields the best spot. No, I think they dropped the ball completely. And it could be something that if the Bears don't have massive success, I think you could see multiple changes in that front office because Trey Smith, you were able to get 4th for him, and then Justin Fields gets a 6th. You took your time. Other teams signed quarterbacks. It was a complete disaster. I really think that what Fields is going to do is just learn, study. But look, Russell Wilson's 36 years old, and as much as I like what the Steelers are doing on our offensive line, they're going to have some rookies. They're probably got some rookies up there. Broderick Jones looked awesome. He's second-year player. You don't know. Look at the division that you're in, too. Look at some of these guys you're going against. Myles Garrett. Baltimore had 60 sacks last year. The Bengals got a couple of real good guys on their defensive line. They added some defensive tackles in the draft. So how many quarterbacks got hurt last year? What was it, like 10 starters missed time? The Vikings went through like 4 or 5 guys. So I don't think it's either. But listen, if Wilson goes down, Fields has a chance. Both Wilsons could be a steal. Peyton Wilson, I think, will get a chance to start. All he's got to do is stay healthy, and he's got all the tools. He's 6'6". He's like 6'6", 240. Ran a 4.46. Look at him play. He had like 6 sacks, 4 interceptions, 2 pick sixes, and like 125 tackles. All he has to do is stay healthy, and he's going to be a star. Roman Wilson in round 3 also. This is a guy I think it's going to be an improvement over Deontay Johnson, who I like a lot, but this guy could be better. It goes to a perfect fit because you got George Pickens, who's going to be your stereotypical X outside guy. Wilson plays inside. This is a really good player. Can Russell Wilson go back? And we gave him most successes. The real question: can Wilson and Fields throw in a win? Both of them can. Both of these guys got big time arms. One thing about Russell Wilson is a lot of people don't realize he's got a strong arm. He was going to remember he flirted with baseball for a little bit because he played shortstop. He's got a powerful arm. He's just short. Nicholas says Lions Super Bowl bound in Texans. Well, we'll see. We'll see. But both these third-round picks could really, really, really pan out. Both these guys. I think Roman Wilson will contribute immediately, and I think he'll be an upgrade. It wouldn't even surprise me if a couple years down the line, Roman Wilson has 105 catches, 1,200 yards, 8 or 9 touchdowns. Peyton Wilson could be physically and what he did in college. He stays healthy, he's going to be one of the best linebackers in football. You know what I didn't like? Maybe they would have drafted another receiver, and that's it. This is just a great draft. And I am done. I'm trying to find. Not really sure what I don't know how to get these to come back. Okay. But I believe that's all I have. I believe that's all I had. All right. Wilson Fields has great protection. Fatano and Frazier. I agree completely. I thought it was just a genius move by the Steelers. I thought improvement. By the way, their 4th round pick out of South Dakota State is a mauler, just because he played at a small school. Some teams have issues with small school guys. I think the Steelers are going to love this guy. I think he's going to end up being somebody who's going to end up getting a starting spot. Maybe not immediately, but I think eventually all 3 of these guys will start for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Broderick Jones looked awesome last year too, so you have a tackle. So it's going to be a lot of fun for Steelers fans. Remember, they got Patrick Queen plus Peyton Wilson. That could be maybe the best inside linebacker duo in football. I said that before about Steelers and it hasn't panned out, but we'll find out. If our O-line holds up and our defense improves, knocking Wilson was that he'd move around too much to protect him. That was true about both Russell Wilson and God, we were just talking about. To be honest with you, it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Russell Wilson, because I really think if things don't work out with Pittsburgh, that I don't think he'll get another starting spot. And that sounds kind of crazy because I think he's going to go into Canton someday, but I think this is it. And if he doesn't work out yet, Fields. I think this will be it. I really do. But I think he'll have an opportunity to go somewhere, but I think he'll be a backup after this year if it doesn't pan out. Now, if it pans out, he'll sign another contract. Fields will move on, and hopefully Fields will get another chance down the line, because really I think Chicago just kind of mismanaged that whole situation. But league will be a lot more competitive across the board next year. I agree. I agree. I'm assuming that you're a Lions fan. I really like what Detroit's doing. I think that, before the season started or before free agency started, I thought they were going to lose some guys. They didn't. They have as good a chance as anybody of being a Super Bowl representative in the NFC. San Francisco had a nice draft, added some pieces. I think overall they got worse. Green Bay's a young, talented team. Dallas is another team. They have lots of talent, running back, but they're a talented team. Philly, when they were 10-1, they're the best team in football. Will they get back? Will they don't? I don't know. That's interesting. Tampa Bay won a playoff game last year. I immediately put Atlanta as the winner, but now I don't know. It's going to be a great season. By the way, I just can't wait. So thank you very much for joining us. Some great comments that you had. Guys, so here's what's going to happen. So here's what's going to happen going forward for the summer. I'm going to switch. I'll be on this Friday. From now on, I'll be on just Fridays. Friday night, same time. I'm no longer going to be on Tuesday. But when football season starts, I have something planned I'm calling Afternoon Delight. I've shared it with only Denver Gator. I'm just kind of keeping it under wraps for right now. But I have something big for this upcoming football season. All my social media links are listed below. I'm going to have a new email address. I'm going to try to put out some emails for you guys. Things are going to get kind of hectic here in the next couple of weeks for me, but I'll be live this Friday, and I'll have really good content coming for you every Friday until the season. Sometime after the 4th of July, I'm going to come out with 8 videos breaking down the 8 different divisions. And I'm going to break down how I see the teams being broken down to, and have all my predictions coming up then. So, good show, Dan. Love to come on your show again. I can't wait either. I got your message about your video and your draft grades. I didn't want to watch it until I did mine, because I just think that I I just wanted to have an unfiltered opinion, but now that I've done this show, I'm going to watch yours. I'm going to go check out ESPN draft grades, Daniel Jeremiah draft grades. I'm going to check out other videos of other content creators that I respect. And then I'm kind of going to revisit that Friday and see like what I might have changed now to get other opinions. But my biggest goal when I do my draft grades is that I don't want to regurgitate what I heard on other networks or from other people. I just want to get you an unfiltered opinion. Then I want to go back and kind of look at things. But for the last couple of years, my draft grades, I think have been really, really good. I think have been really, really good. And stay in touch with me because I do want us to get together. And you had some really great draft videos, and I can't wait to watch your draft grades because you may have got something I missed. I don't think Wilson is in the Hall of Fame. I'll put him in the Hall of Good. The defense, Peter C. and Pete Carroll, he means, and Lynch won the Super Bowl after the defense move and Lynch. It was all over. You're not alone in thinking that, but he was really respected and really loved. He had some really great seasons too. I think when everything's said and done, he will get nominated. Keep in mind, it's a lot of times a popularity vote rather than a worthy vote. There's a couple guys in the Hall of Fame I don't think they should be in, but they're popular. I won't kind of go into detail, but yeah, I think he'll be in sooner or later. There's a couple guys in the Hall of Fame I don't think they should be in, but they've gotten in. So I won't reveal who that is because I don't feel like trashing guys who made the accomplishment of getting into the Hall of Fame. But yeah, I went out of my way not to watch it yet because I want to do mine first, and then Friday I'm going to kind of revisit and kind of see if I made some mistakes and see if some other people pointed out stuff that I missed. We'll find out. Sometimes the Hall of Fame is a popularity vote. There's a couple guys that are in Canton that probably shouldn't be. I'm not going to go into detail, and there's a lot of guys that aren't in Canton that deserve to be. But I can't wait to check this out. So anyway, guys, that's all I got. I'll be back Friday. So social media links are below. Make sure you like the video. And if you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I hope to see you all back on Friday.